Okay, everybody, welcome to episode number 4 of David's Saturday Night Sit Back. Today, in Austin, Texas, we have Tim Houseman, aka Fit Nurse Tim. He is an ICU nurse and gym bro out of San Antonio, Texas. He's also a father, soon-to-be husband. He's yoked, he's peeled, he's minced. He is a slice of USDA choice buck steak. But guys, he still ain't shit. Tim Houseman, everybody, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man, thanks for driving up here. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Are you happy?
Happy, nervous.
Don't
but
be
it's
nervous.
the good nervous.
Don't be nervous. All right, to get some of the nerves out, I thought we'd kick things off with a fun, tacky little quiz that I found online last night. 10 questions. Do you promise to be honest?
100%.
Okay, we're going to find out how much of a gym tool you either are or are not.
All right.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Do you buy workout shirts and cut the sleeves off?
No, actually. I like to keep my sleeves on.
I do. That's a yes for me, no for you. Okay. Do you walk around the gym puffing out your chest, showing off your ILS, aka invisible lat syndrome?
No, man, I do not. But I love when I see guys. Because there's one at the gym, I know his face, and me and my friend JP just like, look at this guy.
I went to a gym I don't normally go to yesterday, and the guy was yoked. He was Goliath, 6'6", 250 pounds, but sure enough, he had that big man walk going on, he couldn't not.
And he was arm day, and he still thinks he's got a pump in the lats,
He actually was doing back and legs, which is a split I haven't seen yet, but I thought that looks
it's a killer
exhausting.
split. Yeah, that's large muscle groups. That's definitely tiring.
Number 3, excuse me. Do you walk up to people you find attractive and say, "Hey, you're doing that exercise wrong. Let me show you a better one"?
Absolutely not.
I figured knowing you have a fiance, you better not be doing that.
Even before the fiance, when I was single and mingling, just everyone's there at the gym doing their thing. I'm doing my thing. I would hate someone to interrupt me. So,
do you think pre your fiance is the gym an appropriate place to hit on people? That's one of those questions I feel like we're all split 50-50.
It comes down to an individual situation because I've looked at like little TikToks, reels or whatever, and some girls say like, no, that's not appropriate. And some girls say I wouldn't mind it, but as a guy, I think it's worse when it's a guy coming on to the girl because they might get the perception that like, oh, I got a pump right now. I'm definitely way more attractive than everyone else in here. So they go up to the girl and they talk, but then I don't know. I would say no most of the time. It's just not a good. Wait till like she's done with the workout if you're going to,
What about like for gay dudes or for
I think it's the
women?
same.
Still?
It doesn't matter. No, yeah, I don't think it matters your preference. I think it's just because like I've had like deadlift sessions where there's this guy, I forget his name. It might be Trey. And he's come up to me several times and he's come up to one of my friends, JP. And he just always says like nice lift or something. But I feel like he's waiting for us to say something more than just like, oh, thank you. Because that's all we say. We just say, oh, thank you, and go back to lifting. But I feel like there's a linger there that he wants us to, say our names or introduce or something. But nah, I just think, yeah, either way, it's just not a good, especially in the middle of a lift. Like if you see them resting, about to go to lift, going up to them, because then it just throws them off, I feel like, in their game plan.
I think for me, I'm brand new to Austin, so I'm putting myself out there more so than normal, especially due to the fact that I work from home. So really, the 3 places I've gone regularly in the last 3 months is HEB, the gym, and the dog park.
Yeah.
And the podcast is a nice outlet for me, but to be able to reach out to anyone and just extend that invite of like, hey, do you want to collaborate together? But I do try to read people. If someone has a hat on and it's really low, then they have in the big over-ear headphones, they're looking down the entire time, they got a hoodie on, that just screams like, I really don't want to be talked to. But if it's someone in like a t-shirt, maybe in-ear headphones, maybe even has one headphone out and they're doing a lift that I haven't seen before, I'll go right over to them and just be like, hey man, I haven't seen that one before. Do you mind if I jump in and do a quick set? And I feel like I'm getting pretty good at it, or maybe I'm just pissing everyone in Austin off. I don't know.
What I've noticed with gym etiquette, especially when people have stepped into the gym that haven't ever gone to the gym long enough, or worse, brand spanking new, is gym etiquette as in taking a machine if a person's going to get water. And I just saw that the other day. It was I saw him like head up to the water fountain. He was doing front squats on a deadlift / squat rack, combo, one of those platforms. So he was using the squat rack for his squats, but then and the bar still has the weight on it. He goes with his water bottle heading to the water fountain. I'm on this back machine doing some rows, and I'm resting. And then I see a guy and his girl come up, and they kind of look around, at least trying to see if anyone's on it. But the weight's still on the bar, so kind of take a hint. All right, let's wait a little bit longer. No, they don't wait. They start stripping the weight off. But luckily, the guy comes up before they unstrip the whole weight. He's like, "Oh, I got like 1, 2 more sets," whatever he said. But I've seen worse gym etiquette than that. I've seen where as soon as someone gets up from the bench, the machine where someone comes and swipes it, and is anybody using this? I always come in if there's someone next to the machine. I say, "Hey, is anybody using this? Have you seen anyone?" Wiping down machines, just being generous, because even if I didn't sweat, like if it's our first exercise and I'm not even sweating just yet, I'll still wipe it down. But I've seen gym etiquette go down the hill. And I'm not too sure why that is. I don't know if it's too many new people in the gym or something else. Or worse, gym etiquette, you can, like, I bring my gym bag onto the gym floor,
Yep.
but I keep it in my zone. If I'm doing a bench press, it's just right behind the head of the bench.
Yep.
Not anybody's way. Some people have all their belts, straps, and everything just spread out kind of in the way of others. That's when it gets pretty obnoxious.
Looking like the floor of a dorm room.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you can bring all that stuff, which is fine because I bring it, but I keep it in my bag. I'll take out my straps when I need them, and then when I don't, they go back in the bag, and I keep it in my zone. I've seen people just all things spread out, people tripping over, and I was like, even with gym rules, they say like no bags on the floor. A lot of people don't follow it, including myself, but I know that I keep it out of the way of others, and I'm conscious of it too. If someone's coming by and for some reason maybe my belt is a little bit to the left of like a walkway or something, I'm like, oh, let me get out of the way. But I've seen people just completely oblivious, and I'm like, where's the gym etiquette base?
Yeah.
Because that goes a long ways.
I will say, I'll play devil's advocate for 1 second, that I always try to pause when someone has bad gym etiquette. And the perfect example as to why is I was finishing my workout and I was heading out the door, and there's this one bench press on the aisle right before the exit. And I'll set my bag on it if it's not being used, and I'll check for wallet, keys, cell phone, headphones.
Right.
And my headphones weren't in there. So I was like, oh, shit. So go back to the locker room. They weren't in there. So then I head back out to the free weight floor to start going amongst the different machines. And the way that the gym I go to is set up, there's very much like unofficial aisles. And I cut a guy off as he was coming out of one of those aisles. And I was like, my bad, man. I'm sorry. Because I was in my own head thinking about like, where are my headphones? So I go over, I'm retracing my steps. And then sure enough, the exact same guy is coming through a different aisle. And I cut him off again.
Oh, no.
And this time he gave me an eye roll. And I was like, dude, I'm like, my bad, brother. I didn't mean to do that. But I bring that up just to say that sometimes when I see people with poor gym etiquette, I try to remind myself, maybe they're just in their own head about something like I was about my headphones. Fair. There's also days though where I'm just like, you need to fix that.
Yeah, for sure.
One of my favorite examples, you'll love this one. A guy was on the hack squat, and he rests in between sets, and there's another hack squat next to him, and he's like an older guy, probably 55, 60, and there's a young lady on the hack squat next to him, and I'm so bad at age, let's say 25.
I'm bad with it, especially a woman.
I didn't even know yours. I was like 21 or 42, and you were like, I'm 26. Thanks, asshole. But she's like 25. Let's say he's 50. Let's lower his age a little bit. And he looks at her and he's like, hey, can you come put a 25 on each side of this for me? And I'm like, dude, it doesn't even matter. Girl, woman, young, old, load your own weight.
Yeah, load your own and remove your own, please.
Yes.
Because you may think it's just a 25, but if it's a girl who's coming up next and she can't do the 25, she just needs whatever weight's on the bar, the minimum, like the bar itself. Sometimes, especially if it's a bench press for girls, that 45-pound bar is like, that's like life or death for them. So
it's heavy.
Yeah. So I was like, just strip your weight, please. That's just one of my pet peeves.
Never work out at the Gold's Gym at Bee Cave.
Okay.
No offense, because that is my favorite Gold's, but it's mostly teenagers.
Yeah.
And whoever these kids are, no one taught them to re-rack their weights.
The Gold's that I went to when I was here that we would always go to when my buddy lived here it's right next to Austin Community College. Well, at least I don't know where ACC is, but he said Austin Community College, there's a lot of students that come here. And then, because they work out early in the morning, then their classes. And then they'll come like right after lunchtime. So we would go to that Gold's, and that one had to deal with a lot of young people. It was a lot of dumbbells, always not on the right place. That's annoying, because they label it for you, 20s, 25s, so on and so forth. But then you'll come across wanting to pick up the 50s, and the 30s are there, and you're like, what is happening? And it's like that so many times. And I feel like it's because of the younger people. Because I feel like the older people, usually tend to be more respectful. And the young people the dumbbells are always maxed out. And I'm the guy who fixes it. I take 2 minutes out of my time which is the whole rest time. And I lift up these dumbbells, move them over, move them back onto this side. I don't know.
I won't go that far, but if I'm on a bench press, let's say,
Mhm.
I will fix lows. So if there's a bar with not a bar, what do you call it where you just rest the weights? So
Oh,
you have
like a
your
peg?
the
Yeah.
peg. Thank you.
Yeah.
If the peg has a 25 on it, a 45, a 10, and a 2.5,
Oh, yeah.
I'll fix that because one, I got to rest in between sets anyways.
Mhm.
But two, after 11 years in the gym, working in the gym as a personal trainer, supervisor, assistant manager, and finally running my own facility, that shit drives me nuts. And I feel like I got screwed over. And it's just going to be an OCD forever now after 11 years working for that company.
Yeah, I get that. I do the same. Do the same with that. And then I try, especially when it's like a bench press or a squat rack, because if you load up one side, you're gonna load the other side 99% of the time symmetrically. I don't know why you would go asymmetrically, but so I'll do like there's 2 plates on this side, but there's none on that side. I'll switch 1 to 1, so it's split evenly. So that way, next person comes like, look at that, one on each side.
Look at
Convenient.
that. It's ready
Convenient.
for you.
Ready for me. Hopefully,
Everyone's
someone,
happy.
yeah.
When the weights are on the right pegs, all ships rise.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. All right, number 4. Do you spend more time creepily eye gawking at people rather than working out?
This is gonna be 100% honesty. So me and my friends, when I'm working solo, I usually have a better just doing my thing, getting it out. But when I'm with my friends, we tend to do like point fingers, like look at him or her. And if it's him, it's usually like no way is this guy gonna lift it, or look how bad his form is. And not like hating on him, but when it's pointing out form, it's genuinely like I want to go up to them and just tell them like you should probably correct this because I'm looking at what can happen as an injury. I'm not looking to like just be like, hey, fix your form because I'm super strict on form. I'm like, no, I'm saying like because you're probably gonna get injured. I've seen a lot of overextension when they load a little too heavy on the squats, and then or worse, they're going forward and they're just like I just see them like right now this one time you're doing it two times on this set, it's not gonna injure you, but the day you keep this form and then you load up just a little too heavy because you're going for maybe a PR or like a 90% of a PR, you're gonna snap something. I just want to talk to that guy. Going up to a girl, never would I ever correct her form because then it just sounds like that guy was like, "Hey, let me talk to this girl." But I see it from a injury prevention standpoint when I want to correct forms.
When I worked at the gym, I would correct anyone and everyone, or I would attempt to. So I would go up and say, hey, could I show you something that maybe you haven't seen before? You might feel a burn a little bit more, like you might get a better pump. So I wouldn't even say, oh, you're doing bad form. I'd try
That's
to
a good
approach
way
it
to.
from like I can help you. And even that approach, like people were very turned off by it. So now that I don't work at a gym anymore, I never approach people. But if you saw, let's say you saw me in there, you hadn't met me, I'm just doing like the worst squat form ever. My body's parallel to the ground at the bottom of the.
Yeah.
Would you walk up to me and say something, or is that not your style?
I want to. I would always want to. I see it often, especially when it's a high schooler guy. I just see him and I'm like, because they're not even in like football, so they don't even get the weight training advice from their coaches. They're in high school now. They want to start lifting, and I just see it. And I'm like, because I've had the privilege of being coached by a world class coach, and also information from world class athletes. I've paid for their coaching services, not like a general pay for a service. I paid for their genuine one-on-one service, which is pretty penny, but I learned a lot from all kinds of techniques and different backgrounds, from a bodybuilder, from powerlifting, and these are either world ranked or just like a very well nationally ranked achieving people. And I get a lot of perspective and a lot of experience from all that. So when I just want to help bring on that next person, because I wish that someone had helped me when I first started, because I also started late high school, and I just would have learned things differently, and it would have been a lot better, faster gains, because you lift the correct way, you know.
Yep.
And so no, to answer the question though, I want it. I'd want to so bad. I want to tell that guy like he's gonna snap something one day when he's going too low, or maybe it's like you see them doing all right with their back, but you notice they're not bracing their core. And a keyword on core, because it's not just your abs, you got to flex your low back too when you're going on a really good squat. And it just helps with the overall lifting, because then your legs aren't trying to compensate for that lack of sternal flexing that they have. And so I want to help people. That's why like I am an ICU nurse, but in that little bio I say fitness trainer, because that would be one thing I would be like to be cool on the side, would do some personal fitness training that like focuses on the foundations. It wouldn't be someone to help lose weight. I'd be like, I'm here to help you get your foundation so then you can continue on your own with very good knowledge and how to be safe, because longevity wise is what I always thought of, not like 6 months time. That's
How
nothing in the gym world, that goes by so fast.
It does. Would that be very feasible with your job? Could you moonlight as a personal trainer while also being an ICU nurse, while being a father, while also finding some sleep at some point?
I always say I'll sleep when I'm dead, and I still say that once in a while. When I was pre-fatherhood and pre-fiance and all that, I was really considering it, because as a nurse, you can get away with just working your 3 days a week, which sounds really nice, but they're 12-hour shifts, so they're longer days. And then me being on nights, you have to flip your schedule. And then when I get off on Friday, my Friday is like I usually work weekends, so Sunday into Monday morning. Monday morning is my Friday. I get off. I try to do some errands in the morning, or I'll try to stay awake all day with the help of Celsius energy drinks, Red Bulls. Not too many Red Bulls. I usually just do Celsiuses now, but some type of caffeine intake. And then I'm just exhausted at the end of the day, because my body's now pushing 24 hours, and I just get tired. And then sometimes all right, let me get home and sleep first, and then I'll do my errands in the early afternoon. But then I end up sleeping past my alarm, and it's like 5 p.m., and there goes your whole day as a night shift. And that's a typical situation. Is day shift, you can get off at night, go to bed at a normal time, wake up the next day feeling fine. Night shift, you sleep the whole day, you lose the whole day, and now you 3 days, 4 days until you go back in, and you lose that whole day. So I would love to have done it. Now, if I did try it, it would just be something where I would have to commit a lot of focus on most efficiency. 90 minutes in the gym, no more. An hour here with playing with the kid. An hour there cooking food, eating. It would be like a tight schedule.
Yeah.
It's something I know I can do when the kid's older, because when they get older, it's a lot easier. Because right now they're so dependent on the mother and dad, especially when the mom's breastfeeding, in which case my fiance is. So I'm only there changing diapers. I feel like sometimes feel like I wish I could help out more, but right now, just newborn children, they're so reliant on the parents. So it wouldn't be a good spot for me to do it now.
He or she?
Emma was born December 28th, and she's so cute. She smiles all the time now, because she's reaching 2 months, 3 months. They start to really work on their facial purposeful movements versus a genuine, like a little But now she's actively smiling when she sees us. She just coos. She hasn't done a full giggle yet. She'll do like a little hiccup of a laugh, but she hasn't reached the chuckle stage yet when you start, because they don't even know tickling yet.
Yeah.
She's barely just discovering her hands, putting them in front of her, but it's super cool to start seeing her like that. But yeah, right now she's in the active smile phase, and she's in the bassinet. We stick our faces over, and it's just like, it's super cute.
What's she like?
Yeah. Anyone who's a parent out there knows the baby cues, so it's definitely super cool. And coming from someone who, full disclosure, it was a unplanned child, but nonetheless, it's a blessing to have her. She's so cute. I can't get over her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if this was you 10 years ago?
Oh man,
I would have been a sophomore or junior, I think. Right?
Yeah, it would have been. Well, yeah, more or less. It was about 10 years ago, 16 years old. So yeah, sophomore sounds about right. And man, that's just the show Teen Mom back on MTV. I never watched it, but just having to deal, looking back retrospectively, saying, wow, if I was a high schooler trying to go through raising a kid, I can understand why there's bullies, but then having to deal with them because they have no idea what it's like. Because I'm not the mom breastfeeding, waking her up in the middle of the night, having to feed her, but there are times where I'm just exhausted and we fall asleep with them. I fall asleep with them. I fell asleep with her yesterday on the couch. We both did. We took a little nap together, and Stacy went out and had some friends and had some good times with her. But to wake up early, feeding them, taking care of them, and then having to go to high school, and then everyone's, that's because I know that stuff happens because people just talk. It's humans. And it would definitely make you stronger, because I have an older sister who 18 the later half, like the spring of her senior year in high school. She ended up getting pregnant, my older sister. But man, it builds a different character when you're that person, that parent, versus older, semi-established patient.
You still ain't shit.
I still ain't
Don't
shit. No, I ain't shit.
Tim.
Go to you'll see all my hashtags. I think I've always put it there. I wasn't.
You missed a few.
I did? Okay.
You missed a few. It went away for, you know what's funny is it went away for a little bit, and I was like, man. My boy's been building some self-confidence, and then a couple posts later he came back. I was like,
it's a friendly
down.
because I'm just a normal dude. But my friend Ray is who I got that from. He would lift at Texas Strength Systems down in San Antonio. Shout out to Texas Strength Systems. And I think he had to hold back because he got injured, but he would say that. He's like, I ain't shit. And I was like, you know what? It's a very way to say humble at the same time. But so, yeah.
Give yourself a little credit. A teeny bit.
A little bit.
All right, here we go. Number 5. Do you lift up your shirt and check out your abs in the mirror?
When I had abs, yes. I used to be the mindset of leaner is better at all costs, including because when people get really lean, I've never done a DEXA scan, never even done the little, but I would say based off of how I looked, morning weight, evening weight after full food and water and everything, I would say there was a point where I was sub 10% body fat.
You think so?
I think so. I think I posted it on my Instagram.
That's
I think as a reel,
good.
yes. And the only reason I say sub 10%, maybe just at 10%, because some guys can hold abs pretty well. At 15%, you can see them sometimes. And then some guys, you have to train sub single body fat to be able to see your abs. But because of my background of doing a bunch of crunches, ab stuff while I was in high school and college, and then you can develop great strength in your core just by doing your compounds, because you're doing them correctly. When you're flexing your abs, when you're doing a deadlift, when you're doing a bench press, you're holding your core in, and then especially when you're squatting, you get a nice diaphragm breath.
Yep.
Hold it tight all the way down and up. You get a really good strength in abs. And so when I started leaning out, I had abs based off of that. And I would eat all day, drink water, and at the end of the day, I still had at least my 4-pack showing and my obliques without a pump, without having flex. And then when I was in the gym, because I usually would train 10 a.m.-ish, get breakfast and stuff when my schedule would allow it. With the full pump and less water in me and everything, I would see my 6-pack. I even had the tapered V going. It wasn't strong tapered V, but you could see it. And based off of that and the vascularity that comes through, because I had shoulders and a little bit of the chest ones, I feel like that is based off of about a 10% or less than body fat. I know I wasn't competition, because competition's the 7, 6, 5%.
Yeah, that's a whole new
and yeah,
game.
that's like dieting for 4 months, like they do. And this was me just being coached by Sadiq Hadjovic.
Okay.
He's a old school bodybuilder. He started off in men's physique, switched to classic, and I paid for some coaching advice from him. And I wanted more nutrition because I was confident in my training. It was like, how do I really achieve with proper nutrition, dieting down? And what he had me do was carb cycling, which is, a couple of days high and then a lot of days low. And then you go a day high, then back to being low carb intake. And so you just track your carbs and you maintain protein and adequate hydration. And then as your carbs get down less and less each week, you lose a little bit of the water weight that's going with it. And then eventually 6 weeks in, and that's when I was like peeled. I was waking up dry weight, striations already without even a pump, which was crazy to me because I was like, wow, this is what it's like. And it's true, people who know, when you actually get down to that level, energy levels are really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not even, like I said, competition weight. So when those IFBB guys, granted, they're enhanced, but still the energy levels were just so hard. The only motivation was just, let me get to the gym so I can get the training over with, get a good pump, feel good at that moment, coming off of the gym, downing some water, getting some food, but then not even having the energy to want to do anything. It takes a lot of want to say that. But
a couple years ago, a long time ago, one of my buddies, Tim, was doing his name's Tim too.
Hey, look at that. Great name.
Also not shit.
Yeah.
He was doing a men's physique competition. We were coworkers at the time, so if our shifts lined up, between seeing each other for work plus lifting together, I saw the guy damn near 7 days a week. But when we got closer and closer to his competition, and he was really cutting out carbs, motherfucker got grumpy.
Yeah.
To a point where I was like, dude,
I think
you need to go home and sleep or watch some comedy because
yeah,
no one wants to be around you right now.
I think that on top of, especially if you don't get your sleep, because sleep is extremely important. Underrated still, I still think sleep is. Even though there's a lot more people talking about sleep and rest and recovery, but I still think a lot of people are underrating it. In terms of ICU knowledge that I have, I think it's just the low glucose or the lack of someone being, because American diet, usually a lot of carbs. is what I see. You get a dinner plate, bunch of rice, a pasta, a little bit of your chicken or steak, and then more potatoes, more fries. A lot of carbs. So I feel like we have a lot of excessive blood sugar levels. So then if someone who's dieting down, especially for men's physique competition, they get that lack of blood sugar that they're normally used to, I think that causes a little bit of a brain shift because the brain runs off of glucose. And it only needs, I think, 73 milligrams. I'm probably 73 grams, not milligrams. That's very little. I think it's 73 grams is daily. It's just what the brain requires to just do your basic work. I'm pretty sure that's the number. I'm pulling 73 from somewhere. But I think that's what happens a lot, even with the enhanced people who've done it for years. Those IV pros, I think, because they get that. There's also some drugs that affect your mind, your cloudiness, and you get cloudy. But I think it's that lack of fat and blood sugar in us. Our minds get grumpy. We get less thinking clearly.
Yeah.
I think it's that reason that people just get like agitated. And then there's roid rage, which is something totally different.
My boy Tim wasn't on roids. He was too, that was the men's physique competition, but
The tested one did like or at least he didn't.
he didn't.
I had a friend who did. He went natural, but he competed in a non-tested one. So I was like, I guess he wasn't trying to win. He just wanted to see how well he could do it because he's always been a bigger guy. So he lost a lot of weight. So congrats to him. But we were always like, Spencer, like, why are you gonna compete in a non-tested? Like, there's probably 9 of your other competitors are doing probably at least some type of cut enhancement drug. He's like, well, I just want to see how well I can get down weight. I was like, all right. If you went into it as a career, I was like, you definitely need. If you're gonna go natty, compete in the natty, test it, because otherwise you're never gonna win.
Yeah.
So everyone's gonna use something if it's a non-tested federation. So, but
There you go.
Yeah.
Which one are we on? Oh, we sort of talked about this one.
4.
I have a
just did.
feeling you're gonna say no to this one. If you
Alright.
do say yes, the podcast is over.
Yeah,
So there's some incentive to lie.
okay.
Do you put your water bottle, towel, or gym bag on a bench so that you can go use another machine and save the one you were currently on?
Oh, that last part. I thought you were going to just say to reserve it, but to go on another machine, no, because I haven't circuit trained, as going from one machine to the next, kind of doing a superset. I haven't circuit trained for, I think, pre-COVID, as everyone says, pre-2020. I don't, especially when it's peak gym hours, 4 to 7 p.m., don't do that. You're stealing up twice as many people's time by doing a circuit training.
Yeah.
If you want a circuit training, you have to go early bird hours when there's not as many people there, or you need to go middle of the day to do your circuit training, because that, I think, comes back to gym etiquette. It's just you're like, if you're doing a bench press and then going over and doing a tricep extension on cables, you let someone work in on the cables or on the bench press if you're on the other machine maybe. But if you're refusing to share on gym peak hours, that's a no-go in my book. So I don't do it. I'll do it if I know it's busy, because like I said, gym etiquette has gone down, I think. So I'll put my water bottle, or like I go with a towel. I bring my own little towel because my sweat comes a lot in my palms, especially when I'm doing deadlift days. I wear chalk, but then I have my own little towel. It's kind of like the football quarterback stance where it's right there in the middle, just tucked in your
Say
pants.
quarterback again?
Quarterback?
Quarterback? A little bit of an accent came out there.
I've only been in Texas since 2011, so that sounds like a while, but my dad's military, so we bebopped around, and I got family in Boston, so sometimes
maybe it was that's
a little bit of Boston,
yeah.
I try to dig it down and don't let it come up, but
Boston's a cool accent. Any accent is
the
a cool
Boston accent is also a lot of swearing. My mom is the one from Boston, and she won't swear, but when we go over visit family, it's talking like sailors over there. But
dude, I was thinking about it the other day, and I think I might try to swear less on the podcast.
SHIT for the listeners. I think that one's not too
Shit?
bad. Yeah, shit. Shit's not too bad because it's like, shit. But the F word still to me is so strong. It's that hard that comes out,
I was gonna say you can't say that you don't say
the
shit.
JRE.
You ain't shit.
Yeah, I ain't shit. Yeah, exactly.
That's your hashtag.
That is it. The JRE, Joe Rogan, he just says, he lets it go.
They say every word under the sun.
Yeah, they do. But I think,
and I think
in person, I definitely don't swear. If it's a stranger, I usually hold that reserve back. 'Cause I don't know what that person's like, how they interpret its language and swearing and all that. But yeah, I try to hold back now on the swearing, because I used to be bad, especially when I was with my friend, the one who trains up here. Me and him would swear a lot. I don't know why. It just comes, come around someone that you hang out with, and then your dialect changes, and you just start doing either swearing or like certain words you use. And for me, it was a lot of he just says fucking a lot, just like that. Yeah, fucking shit. He does that. Or someone cuts him off. He's like, fucking.
Did you ever see that movie Misery?
Mm-mm.
So it's a little bit older, but essentially the premise is there's an author driving through a town of like 100 people during a snowstorm.
Oh, good.
He flies off the road, and one of the townspeople rescues him, and in turn it turns out to be his biggest fan, and she actually kidnaps him.
Oh.
And so while he's kidnapped, she forces him to write a book specifically for her.
Mm.
And in one of the chapters, it involves a bunch of gang kids. And she comes in the room after reading it, and she slams it down on his bed, and she's like, you got to take out the swearing. And he's like, why? It's not you. It's uncomfortable. And he's like, but Annie, we're talking gang kids of Boston here. It's realistic. It's just how they talk. And she says, oh yeah? Am I just going to go to the store and say, give me some fucking chicken feed? Give me some goddamn cow's milk? And dude, it's this hilarious scene.
Yeah.
That's meant to come off as like very intense because she's the psychotic lady who just kidnapped him. But you can't help but laugh because it's just ridiculous.
It's precisely truth right there. That's what they say, Mawson. They just, and it's not even like when they want to, and what am I trying to say? Not intimidate. If they're trying to make some type of argument with someone in a heated argument, it's the language totally shifts. Every day the fucking cab, came out of nowhere and hit me. It's stuff like that. It comes off like tongue, and everyone understands it as that. But when they're arguing, it's a whole another level. So yeah, that part of the author is accurate. Boston, East Coast. I feel like a lot of East Coast, they just swear.
It's awesome that you can sort of turn it off and turn it on like that, though.
To me, it doesn't sound authentic when I try to emphasize it, but when it slips out, like you had said, I think that to me, that's when I'm like, oh, slipped out there.
It was very quick. I was listening, and I was like, oh, wait,
well,
what was that? What was that?
It wasn't that southern draw that people get.
It was not that. No, my mom asked me, she said, when you move to Texas, when you come back, are you going to have a southern draw? And I said,
where did you come from?
Sacramento, California.
Oh, okay.
So no.
Do they even Sacramento? I don't know. Does that have an accent?
I mean, to someone from not Sacramento,
that's everyone has an accent when they're not from the region. People are like, "Where are you from?"
But if it is an accent, it's not a cool one. Because I've heard people say, "Oh, it'd be cool to have an Irish accent. It'd be cool to have a Boston accent." I've never heard someone say it'd be cool to have a Californian accent.
I don't think. Yeah, I was like, I don't feel like Cali does. No.
Have you ever been out there?
Yeah, a couple times. My parents and I, back when I was younger, we did Hollywood, Disneyland, California Adventures, and then Northern California, whatever's right on the border of Oregon and California. There's a town like right there.
Crescent City?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell you which one was,
sure, okay.
But we've done road trips because we have family in Oregon, Eugene area, and then we've also gone a little bit south to Northern California, but then come back up. Just I don't know what we did, but I was too young to we're in Cali.
Yeah.
But I want to see redwoods just because the pictures I know won't do it justice. I want to try Malibu. There's too many supposedly good things about Malibu. I want to see what that's like. But yeah, I've had travel assignments. California and New York are paying a lot for travel nursing, but I was like, I don't want to be there for, especially New York. I hear New York nurses have said they're not going back. That's how bad it got. So
during the pandemic, or just like
during the pandemic and now after pandemic, things like they hadn't gone back to what they used to, and they said they're not going back because they're still. I don't know what they're getting at because this was just an antidote from a nurse. So, one person's opinion is someone else's, but they said they were not going back. So I was like, oh, it makes me not want to take on an assignment even. So, Tance, what would you do? Do you reserve a bench or something if it's splitting up a machine to another one?
It depends on the situation. So I would answer this two ways. One, the other day I was using a cable machine to do reverse fly for rhomboids. And then what I really like supersetting that with is running over to the dumbbell rack and doing some shrugs.
Yeah.
So in that case, I don't feel bad reserving the cable machines because dumbbells are different. Like there's a million of them and whatnot. Yeah. I'm only gone for 30 seconds. And then when I'm resting, I go back to the machine. Also, though, if I am trying to super something, because there's just some supersets that are fire, I will just do it if both machines are open. But I'll keep all my stuff next to one, and if someone happens to snag the second one while I'm at the one I'm technically reserving, I just cut my losses and then just do the one workout.
That's fair.
Or I'll just ask them if they're in between sets. I don't have a problem just being like, hey, do you mind if I jump in there for like 12 seconds, bang out some reps?
What I like to offer, I usually don't go up to it because I always think, because everyone's uptight, not so much in the gym area, but...
We're not uptight.
No.
Not everyone.
Not
Dad
everyone.
Isn't uptight.
No.
He's the chillest dog here.
But when people come up to me and they're like, how many sets you have? and maybe I just started, so like, oh, I got like 3 or 4 more working sets, because I like to warm up with 1, maybe 2, in the first 3 exercises of my program that I'm following. So, but then after that, I won't do any warm up sets. I'll just go straight into working sets. But I'll be like, oh, I got 3 or 4 sets, but I always pitch in. I'm like, you want to work in with me? That's fine. Even if it's a girl, I'll be like, you want to work in with me? Like, we'll strip the weight if it's on squats. I'll fix the height, as tedious and annoying as that is, because I'm 6'2", so the squat bar, if I'm doing high bar, is way up there. If I'm doing low bar back, which is my preference, but I want to get better on high bar squats, so I'm doing a lot of high bar. I'll adjust them for them. A lot of guys will say yes, and a lot of girls will be like, that's weird. Like, they'll just be like, oh, no, thanks. I don't see them, go to leg press machine or something. But I'm always like to offer working in, especially when I end up at the gym from 4 to 7 and it's already crowded, because I'm like, the Gold Gym I go to, they have 2 of the squat racks and then deadlifting platform combos, and then they got just 2 squat racks. And I prefer the ones that have the deadlifting platform attached to it, because they have the pins that you can set with better height versus the locked in unadjustable squat racks where it's like 4 or 5 hooks. Yeah, you can't. And those ones I hate, because it's either weight, like I have to tippy toe to lift it off, and it's unsafe when you start doing heavier weight to do that. And then the other one's just like super low. So coming out of a squat, fun fact, you're just supposed to flex your hips, and that's how much you're supposed to move off of the bar to be able to move it. And going down, like, I'm bending my knees, bending part of my back to be able to lift it, because that's the next set squat pin, is annoying to me. So I try to get that deadlift and platform combo, because that's just right. I set it on pin 13, I think, the whole pin 13.
You are tall.
Yeah.
I know most not all.
I think it's 17 is what they go to. I think I have to set it to pin 13.
Yeah, I'm at 10, because I shoot for that armpit height, because I want there to be a little bit of squatting down and then pushing up and then backing off. But yeah, you're definitely 2 or 3 inches taller than me. For sure. Do you like to load as many plates onto the leg press machine as possible and then grunt loudly while repping it out?
Ooh. No. But
I thought we got one finally.
I like to do a solid, mild flex. I do a lot of leg pressing unilaterally, so just one leg at a time. And I'm proud to say I can comfortably do a 3x6 rep set rep scheme with one leg of 4 plates on each side. Ooh. And we're on camera too. You can kind of see I'm like a thinner dude, but so I've always trained.
Hey, Tim.
Pound for pound.
Tim.
What?
You ain't shit.
You ain't shit. You ain't shit. But I've always had the mindset of a weight moves weight. Congratulations to someone who weighs 280 pounds and they can deadlift, squat, bench an insane amount of weight. What's more impressive to me is a guy who weighs half that and can lift almost that same amount of weight. So pound for pound, muscle strength to me is really impressive. So when I was able to finally train up to just doing 4 plates on each side of the leg press with one leg for a 3 rep, 6 set scheme, I get some eye flashes, I know that. And I'm not doing it to show off, but it's just when it comes to that leg day where I'm like, all right, this is week 3, it's time to go a little bit heavier. Laterally on the leg press, I set up 4 plates after doing, usually warm up with 1. I skip to 3, which is a big jump. I know a lot of coaches don't do that. You're supposed to go percentages. But I like to save my energy for the heavy lift. So I jump to 3, do maybe like 3 reps. I rest 2, 3 minutes, and then I go on a 4th plate on each side. And some guys are like 1 leg too. And my legs I would say are definitely skinnier, because I run still. I ran when I was in JROTC in high school, PT team. I did cross country. I'm an endurance runner, and so my legs stay thin, but they pack a punch still. And so I'm that guy who will load up something and then kind of seemingly show off, but no, not the leg press one. No.
Well, it's not showing off if you're just doing your weight.
That's fair, yeah. And I've had it where I used to train, especially leg press, not letting out any vocalization while just being quiet. It's like just breathing, There is a benefit to letting out a little bit of grunting, but it's not excessive like those guys who are, I'm going to step away from the mic, but just nonstop grunting. I'm putting out a little bit of vocalization, but it's nothing absurd in my opinion.
Yeah.
And people need to try it. People are being quiet in the gym. You need to let out a little bit of oomph when you're doing a squat, a bench press.
It helps.
Something. Yeah, it really does.
It helps.
I think it helps with that breathing in the diaphragm, because you're holding in so much air unless you're breathing in really good, which breathing technique I learned also, let alone breathing technique. I think it helped by 5-10% of some weight moving it. Learning how to do some breathing technique and then holding breaths properly There's a whole bunch of technique work that people underestimate.
For the complex workouts like deadlifts, squats.
Yeah, for those compounds, yeah, for sure. When I learned diaphragm training for squats, deadlifts, and bench 2018 to 2019, because this is when I went up to Canada, and this is what an ex, pre-fiance, just an ex, and her dad is one of the coaches that I've had. He trains world-class athletes because he had like where it's both his time and place paid out for him, but also because of his profession. He was Canada's power lifter. Okay. And then her mom was a Canadian ranked national women's bodybuilder. So then the child, that person who I was dating, the ex, she had great parents, great genes. And then I got to meet her dad, and he has his own gym up there, of course. And he taught me diaphragm technique, and I got it for free from this world-class coach. And he doesn't know like the athletes that are huge, you know? Yep. So like he name dropped people that he doesn't even know are big. And the best experience was he's like, yeah, I was training a soccer guy, helped him with some endurance stuff and a little bit of strength. And he's like, I don't know. He has his own shoe line though. And I was like, is it Cristiano Ronaldo? And he's like, yeah, that was the name. And I was like, he doesn't even know. Like he's so That's out funny. Of it. He's such an old school dude. He's just like, oh, this is my client. I got to train. And yeah, I learned so much from him. I wish there's parts of me where I want to message out to my ex so I can be like, can I have your dad's phone number so I can get tips or train? Because like I guess world-class knowledge for free. And that's where I learned my best techniques. And from when I learned that, I realized how important correct form with correct techniques like that are. And so when I see someone in the gym, I'm like, I just want to help them. Yeah. I see an injury coming, or I see something that could make it more efficient. Because that's what strength training is. It's how fast can you move that weight. Anyone can lift it, but maybe one guy lifts it in 5 seconds, the other guy lifts it in like 20 seconds. So the efficiency of what you learn through those small techniques is mind-blowing.
Yeah. So. It's the little stuff, man. It's the little stuff.
It is the little stuff.
Do you wear cologne to the gym?
No, I always try to wear deodorant, though.
Well, hopefully.
But here's the thing, though. A little note on that. My fiance says I never smell. I'll come home, I just came home from the sauna, was it yesterday or the day before? It was yesterday. Granted, I did like a cold shower, just kind of cool off, rinse off, and then get in my car so I'm not so sweaty from the sauna. But even after the deodorant, I'd melted away from the workout and in the sauna, I was like, hey, I did the sauna, because I always like, come smell me, because I'm trying to make her like say,
smell me.
Well, because I'm trying.
Honey, I'm home. Yeah, come exactly. Smell me.
I'm trying to get her to say, you stink today. She's only said it once, and I can't remember what it was, but she's always like, no, you don't smell. She's like, I don't know what it is. She's like, it's got to be because you eat all your fruits and veggies and you don't smell. But I'm like, I don't know. Because sometimes when I catch myself, I'm like, oh, I stink. But she's like, no, you actually don't. Like, it still smells like your deodorant or something.
Probably it's just because you always wear deodorant.
I guess, but
maybe just
I don't know.
Good, pure gene. I don't know. I don't know on that one.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know if you eat celery before a workout, it helps with smell.
How long do you stay in the sauna for?
I sometimes time it, and like yesterday was a 16-minute. I do 15 minutes, but then the first minute doesn't count because I'm not even like sweaty yet, so I always set my phone 1 minute or longer. If I'm doing it, like say I have the opportunity that I know my schedule is going to be, I can go to the gym every day, I'll go to the sauna every day then. But if I don't know my schedule, I'm just kind of like, oh, today I'm able to go to the gym for an hour and a half or something, I'll probably only do the sauna end up once, maybe twice a week, which is beneficial because from what I've retained on Andrew Huberman, do you know him?
Yep.
All right, he did a sauna podcast, and they were talking about heat and then also coolness. He said like for growth hormone, natural growth hormone stimulation, it helps if you only go once, max twice a week in the sauna. But you have to go for a longer time, like 20 minutes, I think is what the subject said. It was like 20 minutes, one or twice time during the week. And then if you want cardiovascular benefits, more so cardiovascular, you go like every day type of thing for like 12 to 15.
Interesting. I'll have to listen to that one. I've been going I probably go 3 to 4 times a week for a minimum of 20 minutes.
Yeah. I like 20 minutes, but sometimes I don't have that time. Yeah. Because to me, sauna it used to be in the very beginning, like this is the worst thing ever. Now I'm just like, I enjoy it during it and I enjoy it after, especially also if I have someone to conversate during there.
Yep.
Versus just sitting in silence, either by yourself or if there's like 4 other guys and there's no one's talking, I'm like, all right, I'm not going to break the ice. I'll wait for someone else. But when I'm there with my buddy Josh and we do sauna, we only do about 12 minutes usually because he doesn't like longer, but it goes by fast when you're talking. So
It's funny. I convinced my buddy Jesse to get in there with me once. He always resisted. And the one time we went in there, I think he lasted maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and he was like, "Oh, I'm dying," and he ran out of there. Dude, you didn't even make the halfway mark. But I will say, for people who have never been in there, I worked up to that 20 minutes. That was
Oh yeah,
already, and it's a mind game.
don't miserate yourself.
It's a mind game. You got to be hydrated. You got to be ready. One cue, though, I'm curious if you've ever heard this. Whenever you're doing something hard, whether it's the sauna, a new PR, whatever the thing is, and you're doubting yourself or thinking like, I can't make it, the cue to remind yourself is, if this was any easier, would it be worth it?
I haven't heard that, but I like that.
I do
like
too,
that.
because like if sitting in the sauna was easy,
Mhm.
that's half the reason I'm in there. Half is to purify my body, because afterwards I literally feel like a
Yeah.
shift. My body says thank you.
Yeah.
But also I feel like I've accomplished something hard, and then when an actual real problem comes on down the road, I'm used to dealing with that difficulty already, and hopefully it just makes you a more tenacious human being at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And that's like, they started saying it more often now. Joe Rogan said it, David Goggins, Chaco. I listen to, you can tell who I listen to. But then he's been preaching it forever. Chris Gethin, do you know who that is?
I don't know who that one is.
So he helped start bodybuilding.com,
Okay.
as well as his own gyms across the world. And he was a UK-based natural bodybuilder. So his name's Chris Gethin with a K, Chris. And he said he's always preached, be comfortable, start being comfortable being uncomfortable. So, and then of course that builds up your mental willpower, because like you said, something tough comes down the road, you're like, I've dealt with worse situations, with harder situations, I can do this. And I think that's appropriate response for a lot of things. When you start working harder in the gym, working harder in school, working harder all around.
Yeah.
When something very minor comes up, it might break one person, like their whole day's ruined. But now it's like, I've had worse situations.
Yeah. Rose off your back. Do you count out loud what rep you're on? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, not terribly loud, but I've been bad where I'm just like what rep am I on? And then when that happens, I say, well, I don't say like, well, I think I'm on 8 out of 10. I say, I think I'm on 2, when I know I've definitely obviously done more than 2. So I make myself almost restart. So on squats, it's always on squats where I lose my count. I'm like, did I already go up and down and that's 3? Or so I'm like, you know what? I kind of start counting out loud, or I still hold the bar in my hands, but I'll throw, because squats almost always has a mirror in front of you.
Yep.
I'll throw up a finger every time I come back up. So then when I see I'm like, all right, I'm at 7. Now I can go to 8 if I'm only doing it everywhere, or I'll just count out loud, because what counting out loud really does, there's no way I've ever messed up. And I'm like 2, 3, but I'm not loud. I'm not saying what.
As long as you're not loud. I think that's what this question is implying. You'll like this. One of my buddies, for when he's on squat, he got a tattoo right here and it says breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I'm sure multiple guys have done that, but he also used to be into powerlifting, and there is another lift that it reminded him as well. But last question here is, do you put more weight on the barbell just because someone hot is within eyesight?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If I was supposed to do only 80% of my training with a certain schedule, I'm going to say we're jumping up a week ahead. We're doing 85, 90% of the weight of your 1 rep max. That's how I've always trained, is, you get your 1 rep max and you train by percentages. But yeah, I'll absolutely do it. Me and my friend JP, I have 2 JPs, but so far I'm always talking about this one JP. And I'll tell him to listen to this podcast because he'll laugh at this part. We'll see one lady and we'll be like, I'll point him out, and he's like, oh, put on more weight, because he's bigger and stronger than me. So he's like, instead of doing, say he's a very strong guy. I was like, say he was only doing the 190 on military presses, standing barbell presses. He's like, all right, I'm doing the 2 plates. I wasn't supposed to, but
he's doing 190 on standing.
He's a very
standing, not sitting, standing.
I'll bring up his Instagram too, and
I believe you.
No, yeah,
that's just very impressive.
I think he might be my height, or he might be, because I feel like when I'm eye level with someone, I always think they're taller than me, because I can see their top of their head, but I can't see mine, so I feel like they're taller. But I may just be slightly taller just because it is what it is. But yeah, he's much thicker arms than me, thicker legs. His abdomen, even though he's a bigger guy, he's actually got more developed abs than me. But I think it's because he's such a strong guy, because like we have mentioned, bracing your core alone for those strong lifts builds up such a good strength. So he sits around probably comfortably around 12% body fat right now, maybe 10.
Nice.
And he's a very strong guy. So yeah, he'll slap on and he's fine. I'm doing the 225 today. I'm like, she's already probably impressed with 1 plate standing. because I can do one plate, but it's 2 reps, and that second rep is all or nothing.
Yeah.
Sitting down is one other story, but standing is just that core strength that you have to stabilize is a whole nother deal.
I've been doing more both core, to your point earlier, as well as low back workouts, and I haven't done standing military press in a while. My next shoulder day, I'm going to play with it just because I'm
Yeah,
curious
it's a
what I can
humbling
get.
exercise.
Oh, it is. The last time I remember the first time I did it, this was years ago. I saw some other dude who was doing, I think he got up to 45s. He racks the bar, unloads his weight, leaves the gym. And it just happened to me my shoulder day, so I thought I'm going to go try that. And I put on 35s and
Yeah.
okay. So I took the 35s off, put on like 10s. Here
Yeah,
we go.
there
This is my spot.
That is. But the benefit is with military, you can do staggered too. If you're really just trying to see your absolute strengthness, do a staggered split, little leg in front, leg in back, and just see like, all right, let's see what a staggered split 1 rep max feels like. And then if you got the bouncer plates on, you don't have to worry about it slamming the safety bars. You just let that step back. Some people don't. On top of technique, part of technique is learning how to bail on all your, except for bench press. You can't bail on bench, but you can bail on deadlifts. You just let go of the bar. And then with squats, people really need to learn to bail if they're not doing safety bar squats, which I never understood either. Commercial gym or private gym, like, why don't you use safety bar squats? That's what they're for. Because you've seen too many videos where someone hits their back.
I'd say the only reason not to is if the option isn't there. But most squat racks, the option is there.
I know in commercial gyms they have to, that liability issue to help with it. But and I'm like, people like remove them. I'm like, what are you doing? That's dangerous for yourself and for others because if it rolls, hits someone not paying attention. I don't know. But you learn. I know how to bail, and thankfully, because so background too is a little bit of gymnastics in my life, so I can do the splits actually. And
front and back or
I can
side?
The vertical, so front and back vertical. Okay. I cannot do a horizontal. Horizontal full split is actually, even for ladies, it's done correctly, is a masterful technique. So when I see it in gym world, Olympics, or like, I don't know, someone at the gym actually doing it, stretching, it's someone who is educated on it, very impressive. Very impressive. But I can only do a vertical, which is fine by me. My horizontal flexibility is decent. A butterfly pose stretch? It's like kind of doing crisscross applesauce, and then you have your feet come together like this.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like this if these were my legs. So I can do a butterfly pretty well, basically knees touching the floor. But no, I've never desired to do a horizontal. My coach didn't require me when I was in gymnastics, so it was fine by me to not need to learn it. It was cool. It might have been cool back in the day, but now I'm like, nah. But anyway, so I can bail really good on squats. That quick hip tuck away and still landing on my feet. But I've seen people who can't bail and neck goes forward, they roll or go back and hit their bottom. That one works worse because then I feel like learn how to bail.
Do we want to light up these cigars?
Yeah, let's learn.
You want anything else to drink with them, or how are you feeling?
I'm okay right now on the beverages. So this one I picked up for you with cigars. I'm not a
Do we need anything to like?
Got it right here.
No, I was thinking of like.
Ashtray. Yeah.
I got it.
A little bowl. Yeah. So this one
big enough?
Should be. Yeah. Yeah. So this one I picked up because the logo was neat. It says Mad Mofo.
I'm a Mad Mofo.
And the brand, so I guess Mad Mofo is the name of this type of cigar. The brand is Long Live the King. The name and the title of the brand seems fitting for being a guest on the podcast. So, and I picked a mild. You said you were down for cigars, so I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to pick a mild one because if he's new to cigars, buying a dark for someone who's new to cigars would be terrible, but it smells very good right there. So, and then this one is one that I got. So while I was driving with my fiance up here, I did a faux pas. I was like, this is the cigar you got me, right? And she looked at me, she's like, I didn't get you this cigar. I was like, oh gosh. So I was like, okay, my friend Lewis must have gotten me this one because all the cigars that I've ever bought in for myself, I've already smoked before. And this one was in the house still. So I was like, all right, this was a gifted one. I'm like, if it wasn't my fiance and it wasn't Lewis, Who knows where I got it, but it was Padron.
It was probably from the massage guy that we were talking about before we started
Yeah.
recording.
Oh gosh.
A little gift.
A little gift, a little incentive.
Instead of a mint on the pillow, it's a cigar on the pillow.
Exactly. This one's a Padron. That I know the brand, so that's nice. And this one's handmade, it says. But it smells, you can smell this. It smells a little bit more sweet than yours. So a lot of times with cigars, you say you know a little bit about cigars? Nothing? Well, like I said, I don't know like professional or anything. I just know that you got to clip them first, and then it's a slow amber smoke is what you do with these. It's for flavor. But on top of being rolled in tobacco leaves, they usually do maybe a dipping of some kind. So like this is sweeter than yours. So I think mine is either honey or sometimes syrup. They'll dip it, the tobacco leaf, and let it like dry off with that. So I'm getting a, not maple, but some type of sweet smell.
It smelled like chocolate to me.
Chocolate?
A little bit. Teeny tiny bit.
I mean, I don't know if they've ever done chocolate. I mean, maybe they do, but anyway, so mine smells a bit sweeter. And then I don't know how good this cutter is. I just picked it up at the store. So let's see if it cuts well. I know you just need to do a little bit. A little gillet. The sharp.
It's just like its owner. It ain't shit.
You have to apply a decent amount of pressure. Like I said, it's just a little cheap one. Try to do, if I come as a second guest, a reappearance, I'll bring a better cutter. Because a good cutter is just sharp. It's like a really nice steak knife. You just, and it glides. That one's not, doesn't really glide too. The guillotine doesn't. It's kind of stiff.
It got the job done.
I think it was $6 cutter. So
there you go.
I get a $6 cut. So
do you want a little bit of whiskey with these? Or are you good with
I will try whiskey. I will.
All right, I have
be rude for me to turn down the host. So
we either got a pre-made old fashioned. It's really good.
Okay.
There's a brown sugar bourbon.
Okay.
Or I just have a run-of-the-mill, non-flavored anything whiskey we could put on ice.
I'll let my host decide. Which one does he think for a podcast?
Do you like sweet?
I'm indifferent.
I mean, I'll do sweet.
I'll do sweet. I'll try some sweet.
We'll go.
And I like mine usually on the rocks. I don't know if this is a whiskey where you're supposed to drink it neat or not, but we got like a mock JRE kind of. We got cigars, we got whiskey. That is one benefit of Joe Rogan publicly speaking how much he loves his whiskey. I hear people bring him bottles, and I looked up sometimes when the guest says what they brought him, and it's like a crazy expensive bottle. And I'm like, that's got to be one of the best stuff that's out there. But my fiance loves whiskey too. So she drinks more alcohol beverages than me. So I'm not as cultured with like what's good and what's not. So I'm going to tell her we were drinking Witherspoon.
Yeah, if anyone is curious, it's Witherspoon whiskey made in Texas. It's a pre-mixed old fashioned. It's delicious.
All right.
Then.
Fantastic.
Cheers. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for having me. Full disclosure, everyone. David reached out via Instagram, complete stranger, and me saying yes to everything now in life and no regrets. I would suggest yes to someone who messages you on Instagram to do a podcast. Granted, you do your Facebook stalking, make sure they're not strange, but highly encourage people. I think most individuals will crave a genuine connection with a stranger versus like some people say the world's too weird now. I think the world has always been weird. It's just now we have cameras everywhere. Everyone's a lot more connected, so now we know of strangers more. They say there's more serial killers or more psychos in the world. But I think it's just because now everyone's more communicating because of the internet, Everyone can learn. I can learn what's something going on in Europe, which back in the day you would have never learned until the newspaper printed it. So that's a brand new one because I brought this one from home, but I was like, watch me bring this one lighter, and it doesn't have any juice left. So yeah, you can kind of toast yours, which I like to do. There are some people who don't toast a cigar, but I think that's strange because of it being thick, because it's not a cigarette. Because
like I said, just sort of go back and forth a few times.
Yeah, and then you just kind of roll your cigar, just around to get the tobacco leaves itself warm. And then when you think it's toasted enough, I like to, or it's warm on the outside. So mine's just about there. then you'll do the end and just kind of puff it in to get an amber fire going. Where, like I said, you just want to, when you breathe it in, you get the flavor and a little bit of smoke, and it'll let off a steady stream of smoke, but it won't be like a cigarette where it's going.
Okay.
And then, so you just... Does yours have a pre-cut hole, by the way? It does, okay. I just noticed mine. Because if yours doesn't, I'll just say yeah. Some cigars do, some don't. So, like, see, mine's a whole leaf all around.
Mm-hmm.
So, a good also person would have brought like a cigar poker, as they say, because versus clipping the whole end and losing some.
You just...
Yeah, this is like high class cigars. What someone would be like, why are you cutting that? Because you never want to waste any of your cigar. But I don't have a poker, a hole maker. I'm just gonna cut off the chip.
It ain't it. Yeah.
Was that all the questions? Question 5 or 6?
That was all the questions for the quiz.
For the quiz.
Consensus is you are not a douchebag,
Thankfully,
Tim.
man.
No, I got plenty more questions for you.
You know,
Don't
and
worry.
that's interesting actually, because it was probably, this was pre-fiance as well, and I think it was because when I was posting more, I used to have Snapchat, and I'd post on there mainly just, I used Snapchat for my gym life, but because it was nearly all gym pictures, and just gym videos or whatever, people, I guess I learned that people were taking me as like a douchebag person, because someone had swiped up one day and said like, that's real douchey of you or something like that, and I was like, oh. And then I was curious because I wanted to know like why they thought that, so I asked them. They said their reasons, and then I put on my Snapchat story. I was like, swipe up and tell me if you think I'm either like a tool or you take me as a douchebag if you didn't know me personally. And a lot of people were like, yeah, I would have. And I'm like, whoa. And I would have never thought I put myself out there as that. So I found that interesting when so many people that I know personally said like, oh yeah, if I didn't know you personally, I would have been like, this guy's a tool, douchebag, whatever you want to call it, like. So I was like, huh. And from that, I was like, how do I change it? And people were like, well, it's because you just post gym stuff on your Snapchat, I guess. And I was like, well, that's what I use it for. Because Snapchat had first started with the memories option to save a photo, and then every time it would come back the next year, it would pop up for you. So I thought it was a cool and easy way to keep record of gym stuff. Because I would do PRs on Snapchat and save it. And then so now, a year from now, like I'd be like, oh, this is when I hit my old PR. Have I grown from there or whatnot? But since I used it for only gym.
So okay. So is that lit now? That's as much as you're going to...
I might have to light it maybe a little bit more, but that's a good amount, yeah. It's going to be an amber because you got to get them. It's not a cigarette, because when I first got into cigars, I would tear through this whole thing in 30 minutes, and they're going to be like, you're going to get sick.
So now you sure? That's it? That's good?
If you want it more flaming, you can. It's kind of, I guess, a personal preference. I like to mine have a dull, so like, I got flavor there.
Okay. Yeah, no, I did too. I like these because it gets you a little bit.
Yeah, it's already a little.
Yeah.
Little, and I like it because, again, for everyone listening, social smoking is pretty much all I've done. I've done one cigarette in my life, and I was like, these aren't it. I thought they were gross. But cigars will do if my friends graduate colleges, if one of us graduates boot camps, someone's birthday. We usually chain smoke. We'll get a really higher end one cigar, and we'll just chain smoking around with like the 4 or 5 of us of my guys. But so this is kind of a treat because my last cigar, we missed out on the most recent guy who graduated boot camp. We didn't do one then, and we didn't even do one. We were going to try to do one when I had my daughter born, but we never got around to it. So I think 2021, maybe somewhere in early parts of 2022 was my last cigar. So this is kind of nice having another cigar.
Yeah, it's been whiskey. Like I was telling you before you jumped on, I'm pretty sure it's been about 15 months for me. So yeah, this is a treat. Thank you.
I'm also very cautious. Pardon. and I don't want the smoke alarm to go off on us.
No, you're good. You're good. If it does, we'll edit it out.
Yeah, fair.
I'm gonna poke fun of you a little bit.
Okay.
All right. Not really. You had 2 pictures that I really liked on Instagram,
Okay.
and I'm gonna put them on the video too, so people can see these with us as we're talking about them. One of them is a picture of my boy just looking shredded. Your biceps in this picture are
Okay.
all right. Here's what you said. You're not great. You can change that. You're not strong.
Yeah.
You can change that. You don't like the weight on the scale? You can change that. Change is the climax of decisions transcending into action. Make a decision and take action on it. You'll have wished you had done it sooner. Learn more, dream more, be more.
That was for Alpha Elite.
I love the message, except you look like you're taking a shit. You're in the bathroom on the toilet.
Oh, yeah. That's the one.
So I immediately saw the picture and I'm like, what could Fitness Tim be talking about while he's taking a dump? Oh, he's got a little motivational message for us.
That photo is
okay.
I remember it, yeah.
Okay.
So, and that last part, the learn more, dream more, be more, is Alpha Elite's slogan. Yeah. So, which is, I think it's a pretty neat one. But then because I was wearing an Alpha Elite shirt, I was like, I had to. And it was the caption itself was genuine. But then I did poke fun with me being on the toilet having a picture.
It was perfect.
And yeah,
I was like,
if it's, because I took the photo at first, just kind of straight on, no flexing, just like this. And I was like, no, let me put up a flex real quick of the arm flex, typical from bicep. And I was like, there we go, that's better. And then so it was a little bit of seriousness, but at the same time poking fun that guy, you know, I think on that one too, I almost did like, I don't know, like poop thoughts as a hashtag or something like that, you know. Because yeah, I was like, let me edit this while I was on the toilet. And that actually was I don't know how you can relate, but I know there's probably a bunch of others. A pre-workout shit is always better than a post-workout shit.
Yeah.
You're on an empty tank and now you're like, I can rock and roll.
I can go for 2 hours.
And that was one of those days. Fine. It was a pre-workout shit and I probably had arms that day and it was a good day, probably. For sure, it was a good day because I know that photo was a pre-workout shit.
You looked like you did arms that day.
Probably.
My second favorite picture is the one where you were so determined to take a selfie, you got 2 bottles of mouthwash and a tissue box, and then leaned your phone up against. No. You put your phone into the tissue box.
Yeah.
And my boy again, looking swole with the biceps.
That's when I had not bought my tripod. And my tripod's not even as big as yours. It's like just kind of one of those ones that you can take around mobile and wrap it around the legs bend. So you can wrap.
Yep.
So I was like, those are actually really cool. So I bought that because I wanted to start sometimes recording. Yep. Yeah.
I like that look on your face too.
Is that from a video? I think that's I was like, that's a video one. And I was like, that's when I decided, I was like, I think I captioned something. Like, hashtag I need to buy a tripod or something. Because that's when I went onto Amazon later that day and was like, I'm buying a tripod. I have to get one. If I'm trying to because everyone's trying to balance their phones if they don't have a tripod.
You're putting it on walls, on the dumbbell rack.
So I was like, let me just buy one of those tripods. And it was cheap. And it came with a remote, so it's Bluetooth friendly. So you can record or take a picture from a distance. But yeah, I was like, I need to buy a tripod.
What made you specifically want to start a fitness account back in February of 21?
It was accountability on myself because I said, well, I know that I train consistently, but say to take on training more seriously and better nutrition, the whole scope of it. I was like, if I create an Instagram and maybe, first of all, posting every day when you don't have a team behind you, like a social media manager and all that, is exhausting to post every day. I'll just say that out, in my opinion. Even if it's just a selfie, because you have that Instagram where everything's glorious on Instagram. Perfect photo, perfect editing, perfect lighting, perfect pump all the time. And I was like, if I can't post every day, if I can post like twice a week, that's enough accountability. And also it'll help someone else maybe out there in the world. But so that's one of the reasons I started was accountability on my own. And then second reason was like when I see someone in the gym doing improper form or something, if I can create an account that has some type of guidance, which I don't think I've done any type of I've done like maybe a few videos where I posted a workout.
You did one with like your bench press. You made mention, take notice, my shoulders, my butt, my feet,
Yeah.
the head,
Yeah.
what points stay connected to the bench versus what's allowed to come off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
You did a few of those.
Yeah, and I wanted to do more of those, but just because like I'm not in the training world as a profession and or even as like a strength competitor, I just do it casually, although I love to train as if I was, because I think that's when you can grow more, both physical strength and your confidence that you build in the gym, knowing that you're doing things correctly versus people will be like, am I doing this correctly? You have those newer gym people or just unsure people who are like, you should teach me because, I don't know these things. Because I've had people reach out to that account and they say, hey, can you give me pointers on this? Whether it's an exercise or a lot of it's nutrition. A lot of people I find with nutrition problems, they say, oh, how do you stay leaner most of the year? I was like, well,
Can I answer this one on your behalf?
yeah, go for it.
If you work a 12-hour shift, eat a minimum of 3-foot-long sub sandwiches.
Well, back when I was pre-fiance, all I did was just gym, work. And while I was at work, I'd eat 2 Subway footlongs for my lunch. But
sometimes 3?
No, 3 is way too much for my stomach. But
Okay.
1, I would not. I wouldn't be satisfied.
I've had a foot-long Subway sandwich and walked like 30 minutes later my stomach's growling.
Yeah.
I'm like, how the hell did that happen?
And I used all the veggies when I'm at Subway. Even like at first, I didn't really like olives, like in general. I kind of think I made myself like them. But so I would do all the veggies at Subway, especially spinach and lettuce. I love the crunch on a sandwich.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would have 2 Subway footlongs on my lunch and it was the full meal with chips, a cookie with each sandwich, but then just 1 drink. Usually I buy the vitamin water because I'm not a soda person, but I love vitamin waters and Powerades, Gatorades, stuff like that. So when I was just gymming and work, and that was also the days where I'll sleep when I'm dead, hardcore. I would get off work, be exhausted, and I'd go to the gym, then crash, and then wake up, go to work, when I had my days back to back. And I would just do it. And that's when a lot of times I'd be like, work when I'm dead. And I had a lot of people
Sleep when you're dead.
Sleep when I'm dead. Work when I'm dead. No, absolutely not.
That's when the work stops.
That's when the work stops. But yeah, a lot of friends they just say, how do you find the energy or how do you find the time and stuff? And I was like, this is all I do.
Yeah.
As a single guy, which a lot of guys do when they're college age, when they don't have any significant relationship and they're just work and they're like, well, what else am I going to do? Especially when you're a typical Joe. You don't have like rolls of money where you can go on like crazy trips. You're like, I go to my job, I do my schoolwork, and I'm like, if you're not into video games and you want to start lifting, it's a great way to just kill time.
Yeah.
So that's how I did a lot of my crazy activities. I just run too. I still run. Not as often, but I run enough, I think, more than the average Joe. So
to your point about what you were saying about posting twice a week or more than that, I met a guy who I've been following for about in 2023 for at least 4 years now. And I ran into him at Gold's, and I just walked up to him. I caught him, fortunately, right as he was coming in. So I thought, I'll go say hi now before he even starts his workout. That way I'm not bothering his pump. And I said hi to him. And one of my questions I wanted to ask him was just, you do this full time, right? Or do you have like an 8 to 5 job you go to? And he's like, absolutely not, man. Between the posting 7 days a week, sometimes more, plus videos on YouTube, plus extracting clips from those videos to make short enough for his Instagram stories and posts, plus writing out all the workouts. He does everything himself, from the editing, the filming. Yeah. But yeah, man, even this podcast only being, this is episode number 4.
If the person like you or anyone else wants to make it halfway decent looking, it's a full-time job.
It takes time.
It's a full production for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and David's got the full setup, y'all.
I do. You can see it. Go on YouTube. Check out the video.
Yes.
It's not fake. Has anyone ever, in a couple of your posts, not a lot of them, but a few of them, you made a comment at the end of the post, if you're ever in San Antonio and you want to get a lift in with me, send me a message. Has anyone ever actually taken you up on that?
Yes. I've trained with one stranger, and then a bunch of friends will be like, oh, they saw a message, hit me up. But one stranger, I wish it was more because, like I said, I think before podcast, I made myself an extrovert. I would lean towards more of an introvert when I was younger, and I was like, you know what? Let's just meet people. So I started doing that option, and this is still when I had Snapchat. I would say the same thing. I was like, if anyone ever wants to work out with me, just let me know. And I had one stranger, I don't remember his name, but yeah, he reached out, and
we got like a younger guy.
He was my age.
Okay.
Probably I never got his age, but he was like 20 years probably, I'd say. He was going to UTSA, I know that. So yeah, he was probably younger, and we just We ended up doing we did a push day, shoulders, triceps, bench, stuff like that. And it was a good workout. He never messaged me back or anything like that again, but we exchanged phone numbers, and he would say, because he was still in college and I wasn't, so he was like, on the weekends is when he would go out if he could, and hey, we're going to, he'd say a club, like there's a club called well, it's not like a club, it's like food trucks, and then near it are options to go to a club or something, the Block. So he's like, hey, me and my friends are going to the Block if you want to hit up.
Nice.
And I'd like, most of the time, because I worked weekends, I was like, I'm working. And it sounded like I would and that's my, I say excuse, my reason, because everyone does so many things on the weekends, but I chose Friday, Saturday, Sunday shifts for that weekend incentive. They pay like a couple bucks more an hour. So I was like, why not? Because now that I'm out of college, every day to me is just like another day type of thing. It's not like Monday through Friday I have to work and now I have the weekend off, get everything done in the weekend. To me, it's like, it's just a day, you know?
Yep.
So I felt bad not being able to hang out with him more because he was a fine guy. But a lot of my normal friends would be like, oh, okay, I'll lift with you. And then I've actually had this was interesting. I know what was happening, and my fiance knows the story, but I used to go to Gold's Gym Bulverde quite often. So everyone who's local knows that gym. And there were some MILFs at that gym that had came up to me, 2 of them, because there's always like a group of 5 or 6 that I noticed was there kind of when I would go there. Because like I would train around 10 a.m., get my breakfast in, then go to the gym. And there were these groups there. And they came up to me one day, 2 of them together. And only really one of them spoke. But they asked, like, we see you here all the time. Are you a trainer here? And I was like, no, like, I'm just like a gym goer. And then the one that was talking was like, oh, well, do you train on the side? Would you train on the side? And in my head, it was half like they're being genuine, and the other half was like, are they hitting on me? And I don't mean to sound cocky or haughty like that, but it ended up being true to one of them who did want to like date me. And there are all these older single ladies, probably 30, 40s, older than 30 for sure. But like, I trained one of them for real. And because I'm not like a certified with a certificate through like NASM or anything, because besides that group, I've also had other people wanting me to train them. And I'd be like, all right, I'll train you, but full disclosure, I'm not certified, so I don't feel comfortable charging. Like I don't
told them you're not shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I ain't shit. So I told him, I was like, I don't have the credentials, so I don't feel comfortable charging. And one of those ladies was like, that's fine. The other lady that I ended up having a little fling with, she was insistent that she pay me. So I kind of feel like she paid for me in a different way. It was not that. It was for in the gym. And it was, in the grand scheme of things, it was a cheap rate. I only offered, I was like, all right, $20 a week, which is shit.
That's nothing.
That's nothing. It's
that
so
ain't
cheap.
Shit.
That ain't shit. But it was because I was like, I'm not certified. I had that mindset, you know, but now I'm like, certifications are good for many things. For things like personal training, which comes down to, I think, holding someone accountable. Hey, are you going to show up today? Let's work out. I kind of laugh at the personal trainers at Gold's. Not like specifically at Gold's, but like any, you know, commercial gym, they have a personal trainer that doesn't look like they train themselves, but then they're charging however much they charge to train someone. I'm like,
it's expensive.
It is expensive. And I'm like, what's your, besides you being certified via Gold's Gym, what are your actual credentials? What is your history? Like, is it because you look like this now because you have a full family and this is your job though? So now, you know, you got a little dad bod going on, or you don't have the time, or is it like you're just using this as a job and you don't actually train yourself? Like, how are you going to be able to apply that? I feel like those trainers, I'm like, how can you be a trainer without showcasing? Because like your body is your product in the fitness industry, especially nowadays with social media and stuff. Like a lot of people will flock to, I hate to say it, but a lot of Gymshark athletes aren't real athletes, in my opinion. Like they now just got Ross Edgley, I think in 2021. Do you know Ross Edgley?
Mm-mm.
He's this insane, legitimate athlete. And he does a lot of his stuff for charity purposes. He did it like a triathlon with a brand, like a massive tree trunk attached to him. It was either a triathlon or an Ironman, which is a triathlon just harder. So yeah, he swam with the tree trunk on rope. He did the running and the bicycling with it all attached to him. He also swam around the UK island for charity. I think he had to actually cut that one short, or it was when he was doing another type of island swim because he got stung by a jellyfish and it caused him to need hospitalization. But he does a lot of stuff for charity. And so when I heard that, because I follow him personally, he's like, oh, I'm finally announced with Gymshark. And I commented on that. I was like, oh, Gymshark actually got an athlete to sponsor.
Oh.
Because, you know, I mean, a lot of people know it. A lot of it is just a pretty face. And if they're kind of cut, if they're a guy or if it's a girl, do they sell the leggings because of the way they look? which I guess as a business perspective is fine. Pro capitalism, if you can sell it, go for it. But if someone's genuine, I'm like they're not an athlete. They just look good in leggings, or they look good without a shirt on because they are leaner. But when I see a real athlete being sponsored by, say, Gymshark or any other brand, it's like that's cool in my opinion. If I had Gymshark, I would only want to sponsor the elites. It would be cool because that's what I would want. I'd be like, that's what I want to sell is like an athlete who likes gym wear, not like an athlete that's a pretty face. May not sell as much, but if I was in that, I'm not a business person, clearly. I'm not here to sell something, but if I'm going to sell something, I would want my product to be like I would want it only for the best. And so, yeah, I saw Ross Edgley pick up on Gymshark, and I was like, congrats, because not many of their other athletes are real athletes.
Well, I think too, like Ross, I don't know who he was, that it could just be the marketing play of we need our people to be relatable.
Yeah.
If I see someone like Ross, and that's the whole brand, like all their marketing is just guys like him.
Yeah.
That's not going to make me
want to buy,
feel like I'm part of that.
And I think he's from the UK, so I think that helped because Gymshark is sponsored in UK, or is based, excuse me. So having him, I think, is one also a reason. They're like, oh, let's get someone local. But yeah, he's a hardcore athlete. He's crazy. He trained and he did research, I think, at Oxford is what he did. Like, he did research. He was the subject, and when I made research, he was like a subject to a max VO2 run or something. So they hooked him up with EKG leads, a mask, and everything.
Nice.
And he ran for. He does a lot. He did, like, besides Goggins doing like the world's longest rope climb, he did at that time the world's longest rope climb for charity. And then just his hands and calluses. He's so cool. He's like a legit dude. He's hardcore, and it's nice that he does everything for charity.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read up on him a little bit.
I ended up buying his book, one of his books. It's a training / philosophy type of book that I got up from, because I was like, let me just support him that way at least, besides just following him on social media. I was like, let me buy his book. It's called The World's Fittest Book, and that was a good read. I'm actually rereading it right now to just go over it, skim through it. It was a good read.
I don't know that I've ever read a book in that genre before. One that wasn't about fitness at all. Did you ever read The Operator? It's the book by Rob O'Neill, the guy that shot Bin Laden. He had a couple chapters to open the book up about what the Buds training goes through in San Diego.
Go through some shit.
Dude.
To say the least.
Yeah,
those guys are the shit.
They are the shit. Yes, they are. Perfect segue. One of your favorite hashtags to use is I ain't shit.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a bit of self-deprecating humor? Is it humbleness? Is it a mix of both? Is it a joke between you and JP? Where's this I ain't shit hashtag come from?
Foremost, came from a friend, Ray. He posted it first, and I liked it, so borrowed it from him. And then to remind myself that even though I'm strong, there's always someone who's stronger. Even though I'm tall, there's someone who's taller. There's someone who's always better. And there's always someone who's hungry for whatever it is. If I wanted to be the world's best bench press, there's someone out there who's going to train every day, committed to bench pressing the world's strongest weight. And so it's like a reminder to myself, especially when I get self-confident. But when there's too much self-confidence, imaginary lat syndrome guys walking around, bring yourself down to earth and be like, there's someone better. And when you get to my friend, the other JP, I think he said end of April, he goes into another meet. And if he qualifies for this, he qualifies to go to regional, or is it state? This one I know, though, either way will qualify him for nationals if he gets ranked at X amount for his weight class, his experience, because this isn't his first lift, so it's his second or third. So he's hoping to at least get qualified. And he thinks he can, but he knows for sure if he goes to nationals, he will not win anything in nationals, because nationals is a whole nother level. You get the collegiate players who are training private to go to that side. You're getting guys who are casual guys who now are just starting to lift really strong because they are strong. So he knows he's not going to win anything in nationals, but he knows that when you go to nationals, the atmosphere changes from regionals, because regionals, you get a lot of people who are like, oh, best one here, I'm going to win. And if they win, they're like, ha. But when you go to nationals, I mean, you get people like Russ Swoll competing. You get, oh man, I just blanked on his name. He goes to Ohio State. He's a really strong guy. And he trains at Ohio for their strength college team, but then he competes in the nationals, and there's just some really strong guys out there. And I'm like, but when you go to that atmosphere with that high level of training, everyone's so chill. Everyone wants to help each other. Like, everyone's cheering each other on their lifts. They're not like in their zone worried about So I think that's really cool. And that's part of the humbling part. Because that local gym, you get a lot of high schoolers.
Well, and everyone's doing their own thing. Most people,
Doing.
it's headphones in, and it's headphones in. You do your own thing. I love lifting with other people, and that's been. I finally got a lifting with someone.
It's a good community.
It is a good community.
Do you know,
man.
since it's Austin, Texas, or it might be Austin, Texas Strength. It's a gym.
Mm-mm.
Their motto, I believe it's strength and community and strength, or it might be the other one before the other. But Lift Austin, Texas, not Strength Austin, Texas. That's what it is. Because I found them on Instagram through Explore page. The algorithm showed me because it's a gym.
Lift ATX.
Yeah,
they are.
That's a gym I want to get up to because they also do they just had a thing where it's a dance party night. Nothing related to gym. Just hey, we're gonna host a dance party. If you want to come out, do some dancing, like legit dancing, like partner. They did like salsa and stuff. I was like, that's cool. That's a gym where if I opened up a gym, I would want to have like also that community where it's more than just lifting. It's like, hey, it's a place to hang out. Helps with definitely people because I know there's always issues with like not enough community, like wholesomeness, neighborhood.
Yeah.
No one knows their neighbor anymore. Everyone's quiet, and I think that's what will help bring back a lot of people is like knowing your neighbor, knowing your community. And if you fix your house, you can fix your neighborhood. When you fix your neighborhood, you fix your community. Fix your community, build a better city, stuff like that. But if you don't make your bed in the morning, I think this was Goggins. He's like, do you make your bed? Oh no, it was a guy from UT who became like a naval officer. He's like, if you don't make your bed in the morning, how are you gonna expect to fix the issues outside of there? So he's like, make your bed in the morning. Even if you have a bad day, guess what? You come home, you have a bed that's nicely made, ready for you to go back to sleep.
I think that's a big Navy SEAL thing too. Their little motto: "Make your bed, don't ring the bell."
Yeah. I think I've heard that.
You were doing really good posting throughout 2021, and then in September of 2021, you posted once. Again, one post in October, one post in November, one in December. I think maybe one in January, and then March 2022, you started posting consistently again. But what I noticed was that in your one post in December of 2021, you even mentioned, just alluded to the fact that you sort of fell off the weightlifting bus a little bit. And so I just wanted to ask you, to the best of your recollection, did you stop going to the gym? Did you lose your motivation during that 6-month period? Did you basically just stop posting, but you were still lifting, or what was sort of going on?
December 2021 was still in nursing school. And that semester was more rough than others because of personal issues. That was with an ex, and we were going through lows on our relationship, some tough stuff. And so trying to fit gym, school, which normally wouldn't be too bad, but then having a relationship that I was wanting to commit to, but then having stuff come arise from that was just, I ended up having it wasn't that semester, it was a semester before. I had to repeat a semester because surprisingly, I never thought it would happen, but too many things personal got involved and I ended up failing a class. So I needed to repeat a class, but I still came out fine, graduated school, passed the NCLEX, the testing exam on the first try. But I think that's more of just, I'm not a study person. If I get told something, I retain it pretty well, especially if I then read it. I have I would say 50% photographic memory because my testing study skills are very minimal compared to what everyone else did for the NCLEX. I studied probably twice in my life for the NCLEX. And it was like with a group, and then the other time was just one-on-one for 2 days. And I was like, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I waited 3 weeks, and then I signed up for the first or second option to take the NCLEX right after graduating, which was May. Took it, 70 or 120 questions, passed it right away. I was like, all right, I'm a nurse now. But that time in December in 2021, that was the lows of my relationships. And so I didn't really get to the gym. That's one of the main reasons. And then posting. Didn't have anything to really post because I don't like, if you pay attention, a lot of the bigger people on Instagram do a lot of recycling on posts.
I've noticed
different
that.
captions.
I didn't at first, but I've caught on.
I haven't noticed it too many. Well, no, with guys, I still know. I was going to say I see it with more girls, but I think it's because they'll do a lot of more like flashbacks, like take me back to Miami or whatever, and they say the same photo they've done. But yeah, I see a lot of recycling, and I don't like that. If I were to be a full-time creator, I would hate to, like, if I would tell my social media manager, like, we're never going to recycle anything.
Right.
We post it, that's in the past. We might pull a photo or a video from a snippet of video, and oh, this was a highlight of the arm day we did a couple months ago or something. But I don't like recycling, so without new material, I don't post. I'll occasionally do a throwback or flashback Friday, but
There is one you did. You did a video of 12 to 16 pictures, and the first two you looked like you must have been 14, 15. And you were so skinny, and it was fun. It was funny and also cool to see as a freshman in high school, maybe. To Tim's a man now.
Yeah,
there he is.
I remember doing that. Yeah, well, because with Snapchat, I liked because at the end of the year on Snapchat, I'd always post everything I ever posted that year, and then put it all in like one huge Snapchat story, and it was cool for the following that I had on Snapchat to be able to everyone would be like, wow, like I remember that, or people who joined new that year didn't know the stuff beforehand before they had joined, so they get to see everything. So that's what I would do with Snapchat. That's why I would like to use it for physical stuff. For my gym stuff is I'd be like, all right, here are all the memories that I saved in terms of Snapchat videos or photos, and here's a really good arm day, here's a really good shoulder day. Striations were crazy, and then because a lot of people still I think get the misconception that that's what a fitness person looks like 24/7 because they only post the good stuff, but they're just like you and I. When they're at home, they don't have a pump. They don't have striated shoulders, veins going through everything.
Right.
That's all on Instagram.
If only.
If only. I mean,
only that
especially guys, I would love to look like that. Every guy would love to look just, maybe not every guy wants to look like absolutely shredded, but definitely like less than 15% body fat, not having to worry about it, and just big muscles, full muscles, healthy, not necessarily like skin and bone muscles, but full belly muscles, as they say.
Especially on shoulder day.
Especially shoulders.
Shoulder day, if I wear a tank top of some sort, and I got by the end of that workout, man, they look gnarly.
Yes,
I love it.
And I came across I think this guy claims natural, but I was reading comments because Instagram highlights like 2 comments, I think, usually the ones that are most talked, and one of them was like, "Oh, you're not natural because you have capped shoulders." But then I'm like, well, if you're a leaner guy, you're gonna have capped shoulders. My shoulders aren't extra capped like a full roided bodybuilder and developed like that, but because I'm a thinner guy, I commented, I was like, well, I'm 100% natty because like I'm not like I'm just go to the gym casually. He's like, but I'm just a leaner guy. I was commenting to this guy, I was like, so I have capped shoulders, especially when you have an arm pump, shoulder pump combo. That little cut you get. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Anyone can have capped shoulders if they're just leaner, and also genetics too. Like,
yeah,
some guys have really, like my friend Eric, he's got capped shoulders when he has a pump. As soon as he doesn't have a pump on shoulder arm day, it doesn't look like he has a cut anywhere on his shoulders.
Yep.
So, and then especially natties, when you're wearing long sleeves, something, it looks fine. But then when you're wearing a tank top with the pump, it goes through the roof,
Yep.
So I just commented on that. I was like, you're, because you don't even know the guy too. And I'm like, you're going based off of just capped shoulders. I was like, that's like the least thing to work out or look for if you're trying to prove a fake natty situation. But yeah, I was like,
What year are we in? 2023?
2020.
2022. What are 1 to 3 life hacks that you would give the audience? At least one of them has to be fitness related, but if you have one that has nothing to do with fitness, but you found that it's made your life more productive, efficient, a better father, a better boyfriend, whatever the thing is, what would 1 or 2 of those life hacks be?
I'll start with a life hack of if you have a strong influence from your parents, and you lean into what they say because they're your parents, if it's within reason, I'm not gonna talk about the outliers, obviously, but like if it's within reason, do what you want to do. I regret not having a university experience because my mom, I was the baby of the family.
So how many siblings?
7. Yeah, we're not Mormon.
Okay.
Just mom and dad who love each other and deal with the consequences, So I was the baby. My mom, I think, didn't want to come to the reality of me growing up. I'm already in college now, and then on top of that, she didn't want me going anywhere. So I applied to multiple universities within Texas and to also University of Washington because we had lived in Seattle before, and that's where my brother went. So I was like, oh, I want to go where Matt went. All the universities too I applied for, I ended up getting in. So I applied for them, paid those fees on my own, and because of really not my dad, so it was just my mom, nonetheless parents, her influence said, you don't want to do that. What if you get homesick? That was one of the reasons. And then the other ones were she just sprinkled on like the fees that would occur, being away, paying on your own food, stuff like that. So I ended up doing 2 years community college, which was, no shame on community college, but not having the university experience I wish I had. So I would say take in consideration what your parents are asking of you or wishing for you, but in the end, it's your own life. Go with something that you would want to experience. And I got into UT, I didn't attend. I got into Baylor, I didn't attend. And I just wish I had some type of university experience, even if it was just 1 year room and board or 1 year at a fraternity, just so I can know and be like, all right, this isn't for me. I'm going to go back home.
Yep.
So there's that thing. I say go with what you want to do, especially if you feel like, I hate this word, but if it's a calling, if you feel the longing for something, go for it. Worst thing is you just, oh, this wasn't for me. I'm going to go back home. If your parents are like average, I'd say they'd say, all right, come back for a year, figure out what you want to do, then get out of the house. But that's one thing I'd say is go with something you would want to do, and then don't let your parents influence you so hard. And that's one thing that, because I came up from that way, I will guide Emma with my wisdom, but I know that's going to be her decisions. So I'm just going to educate her on the best and be like, hey, this is what I did. If you want to go to university, I'll let you go to university, let you experience it. But if you don't want to go to university and you want to stay home for a couple years at college or stay local, go for it. That's fine too, because I wish my parents, my mom specifically, was more lenient and just like, yeah, go for it, learn something. Because she let my brother Matt go. And then I feel like she didn't want me to go because I was the last son to leave. So there's that little life lesson. And then for one related to fitness.
Before you go to the fitness one,
Yeah.
The thing too with moving away, I have that similar regret, or yeah, I'll just call it a regret. I did the 2 years community college, which was fine. I don't care that I did that. But then I went to the university I went to was right down the street in the same town. It's a joke. It's sort of I don't know what you'd call it, but for lack of a better term, that you don't find out until your senior year that there's even a football team. Because that's how little attention it gets. So there's just no school spirit. There's no fraternities. There's clubs, like there's an accounting club, a statistics club, a dance club, but there's no fraternities, sororities. So you don't really get that real college experience. Yeah. I think you brought up a great point that if you do move somewhere and you don't like it, you just move back. Yeah. You feel like you can't leave or shouldn't leave because it's the hunter-gatherer roots in you where you stay near your tribe, and that's just what we do, and why would you leave your tribe? But I think it's different now. It's not like you're heading off into the unknown. If you want to go to Atlanta, you can research Atlanta. You can make an informed decision of, okay, I'm going out to this destination, here's why, and either you'll thrive or you'll die. No, or you'll come back. Yeah. It's not a big deal.
Exactly.
If Austin doesn't work out, and if this podcast goes to shit, and if my life is awful, 2 years from now, I'll just go back home. Whatever, Yeah. I'll sell all my equipment to you, and you can take on the baton.
No, yeah, exactly. I think that's perfectly said too. If it doesn't work out, just come back. And that goes with a lot of things too. There's always the chance, what if you had taken it and it took off, in a good way? Or what if you went in somewhere and it didn't take off? It's like, all right, no harm, no foul type of thing. So
see, I wouldn't mind smoking like yours.
Yeah, I did another little lighting because I wanted a little bit more smoke. I was still getting the flavor, which is kind of the nice part about cigars. Tobacco, you can have that, like I said, very dull, just kind of heat going through, and you still get at least flavor. You may not get a crazy amount of smoke, but I wanted to hit the lungs. I want the asbestos.
I haven't ruined my lungs in a while, so they're due.
Like I said, this is just casual smoking, so which is very rare for me because I think, like I said, 2021 was my last cigar, and I don't do vapes. I never got into vapes. I did one little vapes here and there with my friends. Like, oh, this is like berry flavor. Try it. I was like, okay. I was like, it doesn't really nicotine free or nicotine ones. I was like, it's not really. And me as a nurse, I mean, I know how anything besides, by the way, normal breathing is bad for your lungs coming in. People who are undeniable, like they say medicinal cannabis, which has purpose. I'm not against that. That's for sure helping with people, especially with cancer. I feel like, if you have cancer, let them smoke up, dude. Especially, like, even though it's worse, pulmonary cancer, it's very high end to metastasize. Same with pancreatic cancer, they're high spread chance. And then probably the next one is breast cancer because of where they are next to the lymph nodes. But I'm like, if they got cancer, man, why not just let them, especially if it's the late stage, unfortunately, let them smoke. Who cares?
I remember listening to, I think I've referenced this podcast 4 out of 4 episodes so far, but do you listen to Armchair Expert at all?
Mm-mm.
Basically, the host of that podcast had one episode where he's talking about his dad and when he was dying of cancer, and how up to those last days, his dad would want a greasy cheeseburger and a milkshake and be like, no, Dad, like, that's so bad for you. We need to do what's best for your health. And in hindsight, I was so driven by trying to enforce these rules when I should have just enjoyed my time with my dad.
Exactly.
He was 2 months out anyways. Let the man have a damn cheeseburger.
Exactly.
You know? It ain't shit.
Yeah,
at that
it ain't
point.
shit. It ain't shit at that point.
At
that point, absolutely.
All right, what's your, or go ahead.
Nah, the fitness tip, comebacks to longevity, thinking about longevity stuff. And so I'd say, take the time. If you don't want to pay for a coach, which you don't have to do at all, thanks to YouTube nowadays. YouTube has become a great educational platform, or just internet if you enjoy reading. But if you're a video person, so back when I had started, I had Scott Herman Fitness.
I think so.
He is a OG YouTuber. I was watching him. I was watching back when Athlete X was still in his basement. I had his videos for references. And then I also had, this guy was in Austin. I don't know if he still is. His name is Six Pack Shortcut. And Mike Chang, I think was his name. He was based in Austin, so that was cool. Chris Jones was in Dallas at the time back in the day. Physiques of Greatness was Chris Jones. And then also Krishan Guzman, the guy who founded Alpha Elite. He was an OG YouTuber as well. And then last but not least, Elliot Hulse in Florida. Tampa Bay, I think, is where he's at still. Strength Camp was what he started. I would use those references a lot. And most of the time it wasn't for like how to work out. It was like preventing of injuries, which comes down to form basically, and then how to properly train. Learning early on that you get a 1 rep max for that time period, whatever your is. I mean, balls to the walls, can't lift it off your chest, have a spotter with you. That's your 1 rep max. And then training with percentages based off of that. Because a lot of people will be like, why am I stronger this week? But then the next week, you're like, I'm not as strong. If you train with percentages, I don't know how you train, but if you train with percentages as well as strength coaches do, or I'd say like any coach, strength coach, this week is going to be like an 80% of your 1 rep max. We might change up the reps or schemes, but you're going to keep the weight at 80%. And the benefit is if it becomes light, you get very efficient on how to move that 80%. So then the next week is like 82.5 or 85%, depending on how the coach is training. With those old school YouTubers, I found a lot of foundation for learning proper form and preventing injury. Because as soon as you get injured, you're back like 6 weeks for recovery. And then when you do start training again, it's not nearly as heavy, not nearly as conditioned. So I would say focus on that longevity streak, because you don't want to be in the gym for 6 months and get gains and then get injured. It really demotivates you, puts you in a bad psyche, I think, too. So if someone starts with not necessarily just form, but at least training smarter, not harder. And then when you get that, like that newbie gains after a year and you're slowing down and now you know how to train, though, you can still train very hard and very quickly still. I see some great results. I've seen more, not like necessarily what I see in the mirror gains, but I see gains from what I do with strength now because of how well I can train. Because I know I'm like, man, I really want to lift, I don't know, like 285 on the bench right now, but I know that I have to follow a program where I can only train at 245 today. And you got to trust the process, as they say, TTP. Trust that process.
Never heard that acronym.
It's an older one. It's an old school one. Trust the process. So TTP. Someone I think probably started a bigger trend with that back in the day, but I feel like Scott Herman Fitness said that. And that I think that's where I learned that, trust the process. Because, again, everyone's in here for long-term gains. You don't want to be, oh, I trained for a year, it was cool, and now I don't go back. It's like, no, you get that, I got better and better and better, and I want to see how better I can get. And that only happens long-term, because it's crazy to see you look back and like, this is where I started. I wish I had started. I posted that one time as a caption. I was like, it's either day 1 or 1 day.
Yep.
So, one day it's like, why not start today?
Yeah.
Start walking, if that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Because as a nurse, side note, a little tangent, a lot of families come in and say, how can we save him? What can we do? And one patient right now is nearly 500 pounds. I'm like, this issue started a long time ago. Because when you get ventilated, so right now me and you are breathing in a normal amount of pressure to have our lungs expand and then deflate to have proper ventilation. When you're hooked up to a ventilator, it's the same thing, just mechanically, but with a lot of weight on your body for your diaphragm, which is a muscle, to expand. Now you're laying flat or at an angle. You're not standing. It causes a little bit more pressure for your diaphragm to build up. When you get super heavy, it's a high PEEP pressure to inflate the lungs. And people go, when can you get off the ventilator? I'm like, one, the high PEEP will say yes or no if a doctor can perform a trach on a patient, which is, giving the airway on the neck part where the trach is, the trachea. And so in my head, I just immediately go like, this issue is a 20-year problem with this 35-year-old because he weighs 500 pounds. His lungs are taking a lot of breathing just to get inflated right now because of all that pressure. So I just, I'm like, if starting right now, like if all you can do is just walk outside to the mailbox because you're morbidly obese and you get winded, start with that. Because then next thing you know, you're like, oh, I can walk 3 times the length now. And it's just going to be little steps like that. And I wish they preached more preventative measures with the general healthy lifestyle versus what medicine can I take to fix this. It's like, medicine can make you feel better in some ways, but it's not going to get rid of the excessive amount of weight that you have. Anyone can be overweight, a little bit of weight. We're designed to carry a little bit of fat for us. But if we have excessive amount of weight like the typical American does, I see it so many times in a hospital. People come in, they're like, is he going to get better? Is she going to get better? I'm like, we know the prognosis, especially when we read the doctor's notes. It says guarded or poor prognosis. Guarded is tipping towards poor prognosis most of the time in the ICU because they're very sick. And it comes with multi-organ systems. There's like, all right, they have lung issues, but when you have lung issues, it's going to work its way to the kidneys. And when kidneys start failing, everything starts to fail. You start having to run dialysis on them. Maybe they're an ECMO patient, which is like dialysis for the lungs. But I would say preventative and just starting today to try to get healthy. And then longevity, don't get injured. Just work on your form. Work on building that self-confidence too. Because as soon as you get injured, like I said before, running around, but you're going to get that psyche. You're like, I wish I was trained. Because then it's like when we get on a rest day, it helps long-term wise. But every time it's like a rest day, it's like, all right, I'll take the dog on a walk. I'll play some basketball. I'll lift or want to get a pump or something. Do some push-ups. Push-ups are okay, I think.
I try to fill my rest days.
Yeah, I do active rest days is what I like to say.
As soon as you said you were bringing cigars on Sunday or whatever day that was, I knew this was going to be a rest day for me. So I was online by 6:30, worked all afternoon. You're here. This will end. Take him for a 45-minute walk, get home, probably edit some content. The day's filled. My rest days, the only time I go crazy is if I have nothing planned. If it's like a Saturday, no plans, and that's supposed to be my rest day, I end up going to the gym anyways because I'm like, well, got it all day. That being said, you touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to ask you directly. Big question. You might go on a big rant.
It's a big pause.
That's fine if you do. From your perspective, if you could change something about the healthcare system, what would it be? Why? How do you think you'd start to go upstream with whatever that changes?
My answer came from just a recent experience. So me and my fiance have Emma, the newborn. Maternity leave is completely awful in America, and it's been said for a while.
6 weeks?
Yeah, and so I wish I had the term for me. It's called for my company, and I think it's for majority because her cousin is the HR director at a different healthcare facility.
Should I cut this off?
Yeah, you can probably cut that off unless you like, tongue in a little.
I do not.
A little tobacco leaf. So they have so you get 6 weeks, but in that 6 weeks, there's 4 weeks for it's called a 30-day, I forgot the term. It's basically the first 30 days for a short-term disability when you get short-term disability. It says 30 days you'll have the short-term disability, so you have your job back, but we won't start paying you till after the 30 days. And 30 days is like 4 weeks. So those 30 days, 4 weeks is also included in that 6 weeks. So you don't get paid for those 4 weeks, and then you get paid for those remaining 2 weeks of that 6 week period. So you're only getting a paycheck for that 2 week, and it's at 50% of your pay. So my fiance and I, for our short-term disability insurance, she got a 50% paycheck for a 2 week work period when they say 6 weeks. Because it is 6 weeks of short-term disability, but there's 4 weeks where it's a 30-day injury something. It's something like that. And we learned that it's normal, I guess, across a bunch of companies because then we asked her cousin who's an HR director at a different healthcare facility. I won't do name drops, but at a different facility than I work, and she said, "Oh, we have that too." It's shitty to say the least. Swear word, but swear word.
Get ready, everyone.
And then FMLA, because I thought FMLA also offered pay. FMLA, that federal law, is just, it guarantees that you have your job back at least. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that you have to pay. And so, and especially in a field of majority still feminine, I would say, females with nursing, the maternity leave is shockingly atrocious. It's just so bad. And I wouldn't have thought it was this bad. And I would have changed what you get for maternity leave. Because in London, Sweden, and actually it was said so there's like 7 quote unquote developed countries that have what America has for maternity leave, which is very little and is very, very bad. Everywhere else in the world, even underdeveloped countries, have some type of maternity leave that's better than America. And for someone who's for a country that's so like ahead of many others, why are we so behind on this part? And I understand why. It's because it comes out of the employer's pockets when they have to do a maternity leave while guaranteeing a spot back for that person. But it was so shocking to me. If you ever become a father and the person gets short-term disability, you're going to go through this and you're going to be like, man, it is bad. And I wish I could change it to where we were like at least London. I think London they offer like a full year of maternity leave. So that's great because they understand that the mom and child has to bond to have a very good established relationship. And then on top of that, they have better pay compensation. I think it's 60%, which is better than 50 for X amount of months, and then it drops down to 50. But the point that they have a full year's worth of maternity leave, and America has 6 weeks, so if you do vaginal birth, you have an option to tear versus C-section is surgical, right? So if you tear during birth, the doctor writes, you can only lift up your child. You lift anything more than that, it can cause abdomen pressure and strain, and you can re-tear. So then you have that 6 weeks is only enough to just heal from a potential tear that you had during delivery. And it's like, if she was a single mom, my fiance, now she has to figure out childcare after being on no paycheck, no income for 6 weeks, minus that 50% of a paycheck, which for her was $900. I'm like, that doesn't cover someone's rent sometimes. That doesn't cover the amount of rent, groceries, gas, especially gas now. But I was so upset with that. That's one thing I wish I would change. And then what got me upset, I was getting upset, and I'm getting a little upset talking about it. I was like, and there's going to be people who lobby against this, saying, no, we need to keep it or shorten maternity leave and pay and all that. And I was like, there's no way someone who's centered-minded with a significant other that's gone through maternity leave can lobby against shortening or lobbying against extending maternity leave, because it's ridiculously terrible. And if someone can listen to this and relate, I know they're going to get heated too, because I don't get upset at many things ever. And this was the whole process of filing paperwork, trying to get paycheck, trying to argue it, trying to get a doctor's note, because insurance is like, oh, you need a doctor's note if you want to extend short-term disability. And we didn't try. Stacy was the decision maker. I was like, Stacy, you should, her name's Dr. Quinn. She's a great OB. I was like, Dr. Quinn will probably write you another term of paper saying you can't work, because she did end up having a tear that was only X amount of pounds can be lifted, which was basically the baby. So I was like, you can't go back to work because our patients weigh more than 10 pounds. You can't lift anything beyond 10 pounds, Stacy. That's medically unsuitable to do the job of a nurse, because we move, like I said, a 500-pound patient. I get me, and if I'm lucky, 2 other nurses to turn that guy and to bathe him and whatnot. Yeah. So I was like, there's no way. And she just didn't want to deal with it. More paperwork. She was already upset with everything, so rightfully so. But she's like, it's just one more paycheck of $900. I'm like, yeah, but that's one more that the company's paying that we deserve. Like, anyways, that's one thing I wish I could change in the medical field is maternity leave for nurses specifically, because there's no way you can return to work and do your job 100%. So.
Yeah, there's a book that I read that didn't center just around healthcare in the U.S., but it was a pretty, what is that?
A little bit of tobacco leaf in my whiskey.
It's making it smoky, huh?
Yeah.
How do you like it, by the way? Is it good?
It is good whiskey. It's great.
Good. But it was a section of the book focused on 2 things. just healthcare in the U.S. overall, as well as preventative healthcare in the U.S. versus how much we spend after the
Yep.
injury, the illness, whatever it is. Dude, it was mind blowing. I had no idea until I read this book.
And in nursing school, they do a little. I mean, just at any class, they'll just say prevention with medicine, especially, and then cost. Prevention is so easy
It's so
to
much
treat
cheaper.
and cheap than whatever you call after the situation. So I guess solving. But preventive, like I said, no one talks about doing just walking around for 10, 20 minutes up hills or down hills or on a flat surface every day, getting some basic walking in. Everyone just wants, oh, this is my situation now. What can I do to fix it? What kind of medicine can I take? What can I do now, doc? It's like heart disease. It starts creeping, and same with blood pressure and diabetes. It starts creeping long term. You don't know until it's too late. Like you go in for a checkup because you're vomiting or something. It's like, oh, you have super high blood sugar. Oh, turns out your average A1C is like 14 or something crazy, and now you're diabetic. Your cells either are too resistant to insulin or you don't make enough, depending, whichever it is, type 1 or type 2. But I was like, a good way to fix that is you keep a controlled blood sugar with not too many actual sugars in your diet, processed food, and then carbs, because carbs turn into blood sugar, glucose. So if you have like a lot of pastas and not too many things to help bring down or keep adequate blood sugars, like protein, the way protein is like, I feel full and longer after proteins because of the blood sugar levels. It's a very slow increase, and then it keeps it there steadily. Carbs are going to shoot it up and then crash. So, yeah. Going on a little knowledge base. Don't mean to flex on my knowledge.
No, it's good. That's why we had you on here, to flex on your knowledge. No, I was just thinking about my dinner last night, that even with homemade meals, you can try to make them. Homemade isn't always healthy.
No.
I made a stir fry, and it was broccoli, celery, carrots, some beef, some noodles. But then I didn't use any spices, so no salt, pepper, flavoring, anything. But I threw in some ponzu sauce, some.
What's ponzu? What is?
It's like
I'm not
what
familiar.
you would dip it if you got a. Oh man, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's like a dipping sauce at Asian restaurants.
Kind of like duck sauce.
It's like, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
or eel sauce too.
Yeah, except it's the texture of soy sauce.
Oh, okay.
So it's very thin.
Yeah, very
brown. It's sweet soy sauce.
Say it again. What is it?
Ponzu. Ponzu.
HEB has that.
Yep.
All right,
Yes,
I'll
sir.
HEB next time.
I'll show you the bottle after we end this thing. But I threw in some ponzu sauce, some sriracha sauce, some white wine vinegar, some water, just to have some more liquid on the base. Cooked it up. Dude, I ate this meal and just felt like a badass afterwards. When you feel like you got a little baby in there.
Yeah.
I do think it was a pretty healthy meal. I just overate.
Sounds it.
But then I threw in some noodles in there, which is where the bloated feeling probably came from, was boiling some fresh like Asian
rice noodle.
So yeah, like some Asian rice noodles that you'd find in like a pad thai or something. But man,
pad thai is dangerously good, but
it is
because it's so many noodles, it packs in a lot of calories, which is good if you're not worried about that. But because me and Stacy love pad thai, we used to go to this one place 3 times a month easily. If it not takeout, we were in there.
Darn near once a week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Sounds
it's
great.
better to say 3 times
like
a month than once a week.
Yeah, no, it is.
Once a week adds up. But yeah, we love pad thai. And I just get like spicy level. I get like a 2, maybe a 3 out of 5. She gets like a 3 or 4 for sure. But pad thai is my favorite. One of my favorite Asian dishes.
Tim Houseman.
Yes.
Take a wild guess how long we've been going for. Don't look at your clock.
I'm not over an hour.
2 hour and 5.
Really? Recording?
Yep.
Wow. See, that's the great part, because it's organic talking and it doesn't feel like it. At least to me, it doesn't. Maybe I'm wrong.
It doesn't feel like 2 hours.
Because I feel like we just finished that questionnaire. And the questionnaire was...
That questionnaire was almost the first hour.
Wow. 5 questions took over 6, whatever.
10 questions.
Oh, 10. Oh, wow.
It was 10, but yeah, and it's funny too, man, because when I'm planning these things, I'm thinking that would have taken like 10, 20 minutes, but it worked out perfectly because we ended up talking about...
I did answer and go off some tangents, though. I know. I was since this is the first podcast, I wasn't too sure on like how far do I go off on a tangent, because sometimes like JRE, when I'm listening to Joe Rogan and them, they'll answer or talk about something, but then his guest goes off for like 20 minutes, which is fine. I mean, I'm just listening to it. But then I'm like, how well do they steer it back? But then Joe Rogan, he's like, we talk whatever we want to talk about. He's like, if whatever way the conversation goes, which is, I think, the best type of podcast, nearly unscripted. And granted, you had questions prepared, but that wasn't like, I didn't know ahead of time. So
Well, and what's funny too is we went 2 hours and 5 minutes, and I had, of the questions I had, let's see, I asked you, we did the quiz, and we did 3 questions, and I had a total of 16.
Well,
So,
that's good with editing.
yes.
And that gives us a good break because I think I gotta take a leak.
Did you have fun?
I had a great time. This was fun. Cigars, whiskey.
Anything else you want the people to know before we shut this thing down?
If you're local to San Antonio or Austin, you should message David and or I. And it seems like we're both open to get a workout in with a stranger.
I would.
As long as you're not a psycho. But
please don't be a psycho.
Yeah, please, everyone, please message me if you're normal.
Next time you come out here, we're going to have to get lifting together.
Yeah.
Tim Houseman, we've talked about mindset a little bit. We mostly talked about working out. So if you like working out, this is a great episode to listen to. As Tim said, I'll get in a workout with you if you're in Austin. He'll get a workout with you if you're in San Antonio. Next time you come out here, we're going to plan this a little better. We're going to get lifting together.
Absolutely. That'd be great.
And now you've set a standard. You have to bring cigars every time, and I'll bring whiskey every time.
I'll agree to that.
Okay.
That's great.
Cool.
Thanks for having me, David.
Thanks for coming. If you really like this podcast, give it a like, share it with your friends. If you want to watch it on YouTube, there's a video version there. Follow us on Instagram. It's David Saturday Night Sitback, all one word. If you really, really, really like the podcast and you'd like to throw some money our way, patreon.com/sitbackwithdavid. And if you're in the Austin area and you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can slide into the DMs on Instagram, or you can shoot me a message, sitbackwithdavid@yahoo.com. Otherwise, hope you guys have a great Saturday night, and we'll see you for the next episode. Bye.